A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all-old-time radio.
This I believe. Sometimes it takes the shock of tragedy to awaken our talents for happiness. Ralph Richmond, a Philadelphia advertising man, once almost lost his life, but in the process he discovered himself. Today at 57, he is a lively citizen, a grandfather, a writer of verse and essays. He won the Saturday Review of Literature Prize for completion of the last unfinished novel by Joseph Conrad. Here is Ralph Richmond to reveal his beliefs and how he found them.
Just 10 years ago, I sat across the desk from a doctor with a stethoscope. Yes, he said, there is a lesion in the left upper lobe. You have a moderately advanced case. I listened, stunned, as he continued. You'll have to give up work at once and go to bed. Later on, we'll see. He gave no assurances. Feeling like a man who in mid-career has suddenly been placed under sentence of death with an indefinite reprieve, I left the doctor's office, walked over to the park, and sat down on a bench, perhaps, as I then told myself, for the last time. I needed to think. In the next 3 days, I cleared up my affairs. Then I went home, got into bed, and set my watch to tick off not the minutes, but the months. 2.5 years and many dashed hopes later, I left my bed and began the long climb back. It was another year before I made it. I speak of this experience because these years that passed so slowly taught me what to value and what to believe. They said to me, take time before time takes you. I realize now that this world I'm living in is not my oyster to be opened, but my opportunity to be grasped. Each day to me is a precious entity. The sun comes up and presents me with 24 brand new, wonderful hours, not to pass, but to fill. I've learned to appreciate those little, all-important things I never thought I had the time to notice before. The play of light on running water, the music of the wind in my favorite pine tree. I seem now to see and hear and feel with some of the recovered freshness of childhood. How well, for instance, I recall the touch of the springy earth under my feet the day I first stepped upon it after the years in bed. It was almost more than I could bear. It was like regaining one's citizenship in a world one had nearly lost. Frequently I sit back and say to myself, let me make note of this moment I'm living right now, because in it I'm well, happy, hard at work doing what I like best to do. It won't always be like this, so while it is, I'll make the most of it, and afterwards I'll remember and be grateful. All this I owe to that long time spent on the sidelines of life. Wiser people come to this awareness without having to acquire it the hard way, but I wasn't wise enough. I'm wiser now, a little, and happier. Look thy last on all things lovely, every hour. With these words, Walter Delamere sums up for me my philosophy and my belief. God made this world, in spite of what man now and then tries to do to unmake it, a dwelling place of beauty and wonder, and he filled it with more goodness than most of us suspect. And so I say to myself, should I not pretty often take time to absorb the beauty and the wonder, to contribute at least a little to the goodness? And should I not then, in my heart, give thanks? Truly I do. This I believe.
That was Ralph Richmond, an advertising copywriter and a man of letters, who has learned by experience that in things which seem commonplace can be discovered some of life's most precious values.
Good evening. This is Ken Roberts inviting you to listen to another adventure of Casey, crime photographer. Ace cameraman who covers the crime news of a great city. Our adventure for tonight, the disappearance of Mr. Dizzel. Night, a quiet street of old conservative brownstone mansions. On one of them, a small bronze sign bears the modest legend, Adam Dizzel, dealer in rare books. Approaching this house, but on the opposite side of the street.
Doggone, Luella, I enjoyed that movie. Them two fellas was funny.
Pretty good, all right, but 11:30 is too late for us to be coming home, Henry. I got to be up cooking breakfast for Mr. Dizzel by 7 in the morning.
Yeah, we both got to. Mr. Dizzel seems to be keeping late hours himself tonight. There's a light showing behind the blinds in his office.
Yeah. What was that?
Somebody shooting guns.
In our house. Mr. Dizzel's house.
Somebody's busting out our door, running down the steps.
Yes, 3 men.
2 of them is carrying the third man.
Yeah, and they're getting in that automobile.
Now, you stay here, Luella. I'm going to...
No, you stay right here till we find a policeman.
Let me look for a policeman.
I see 2 of them coming, Henry. They heard them shots. That car's getting away. Police! Police!
All right, we're coming. What happened?
3 men and that black sedan officer, we saw them come out and...
I'll commandeer a car and go after them. Schultz, you'll see what the shooting was about. Okay, Sarge.
The shooting was in our house, Mr. Dizzel's house.
Hey, you come with me. We'll get inside. You two work for Mr. Dizzel, don't you?
Yes, sir. We keep house for him and Mr. Lawrence.
We live down in the basement.
Yeah, that front door's wide open.
It sounded like them shots was fired in Mr. Dizzel's office.
His office door's closed, Luella.
Yeah, and it's locked, too. I'll bust it here. That did it.
Oh, there's blood on the floor there. Blood!
Yeah, and the office is empty.
Where's Mr. Dizzel? What happened to Mr. Dizzel?
All right, now, if you good people just let me get one more picture, I'll be all finished.
Are all these pictures of Luella and me going to be in the papers, Mr. Casey?
Well, the best ones will be. Now, hold it just like that. That's all. Thank you.
You two can go now. You've told me all you can, I guess.
We told you all we know, Captain Logan. Come on, Henry. Good night.
Good night.
Well, I suppose you'd give us a lowdown on this business, Logan. Annie and I just got the assignment.
You and
late.
Miss Williams are slipping, Casey. The other cameras and reporters were all finished before you two showed up.
Well, that's the breaks. Sometimes they work the other way.
Oh, what have you learned about the shooting, Captain Logan?
Nothing of much value yet. A black sedan pulled away from here right after the shots were heard. One of the 3 men in that sedan was dragged or carried to it by the others. He was probably Adam Dizzel. Anyway, Dizzel is gone. Bloodstains in his office, plus some bullet holes, indicate he was the victim, probably kidnapped.
Hey, a slug went through this very expensive-looking book.
Yeah, we found the slug, and 2 more, all fired from a .38 revolver.
Hey, Logan, maybe the 2 guerrillas came here intending a robbery. Dizzel discovered him. They plugged him without killing him and then took him away so he couldn't describe or identify him.
Casey, our experts tell me there's a folio Shakespeare worth plenty on that shelf in plain sight. It could have been lifted in a split second, but it wasn't.
Well, such extremely rare volumes as folio Shakespeare's must be almost impossible for thieves to dispose of, Captain Logan. The ownership of every such book in existence is known.
Miss Williams, book collecting in some instances is nothing less than a disease. Rabid collectors will buy items they know are stolen just for the sheer kick of personal possession. Casey, you remember that little crook who called himself Professor Ishka?
Ishka? Yeah, an interesting little guy, too. He and I were almost buddies, Annie, before unsympathetic cops like Logan sent him back to the big house about 10 years ago.
For his 3rd offense. Professor Ishka was a rare book thief, Miss Williams, but he got bragging streaks occasionally.
Theft may have been the motive in this case, Logan.
And I'm hoping to get a lead on the real motive when Neil Lawrence is located.
Neil Lawrence?
Now, he's Dizzel's nephew. He lives here and acts as a sort of assistant to his uncle. So he should know a lot about his business and personal associations. The servant you met told me that Lawrence left the house early this evening to go to the theater.
Dizzel was all alone here then from about 8 p.m. on.
Yeah.
I see the lock on this office door is broken.
The cop who got here right after the shooting found it locked. He broke it.
I wonder why the kidnappers bothered to lock it from the outside when they were in such a hurry.
I've wondered about that. They must have taken the key away with them. We haven't been able to find it.
It's the only door. The walls are solid bookshelves from floor to ceiling, except for those 2 windows facing the street.
And those windows were locked from inside. Dizzel's visitors got in through that door.
Well, he must have admitted him then. And because he knew him, since they came long after business hours.
Yeah, I think he knew him.
Captain Logan's in your uncle's shop, Mr. Lawrence. He'll tell you all about it.
Lawrence is here.
Thank you, officer. I'll go in.
Now, come right in, Mr. Lawrence. I've been waiting for you. I'm Captain Logan, Homicide Bureau.
One of your men outside just told me...
I'm sorry you came home to such bad news.
He gave me no details, Captain. What happened?
First, I must ask you some routine questions. I'm told you went to the theater tonight.
Yes, the Globe. Later we had a few drinks and steak at the Bristol Club. I just came from there.
By we, you mean a young lady was with you?
No.
No, what was your friend's name, please? This is all part of a necessary general checkup.
I was with Bruce Madden.
Not Bruce Madden, Jr.?
Yes. I know you check up on anything I tell you, so...
I've met Bruce Madden, Jr. professionally when he tried to extort money from his wealthy father. So you're a friend of his.
Now, look here, Captain. I've never been connected with any of the trouble Bruce has been in. We've simply been friends since we were kids.
And you and he were together tonight when your wealthy uncle was probably both shot and kidnapped by two men. Sit down, Mr. Lawrence. I'm going to ask you some questions that aren't just routine.
Captain Logan thinks Dizzel's nephew, this Neil Lawrence, had something to do with his uncle's kidnapping, huh, Kate?
He's about convinced that Lawrence and his pal Bruce Madden, Jr. had everything to do with it, Ethelbert.
Well, police checkup shows that Lawrence and Madden left the Globe Theater about 11 o'clock, and they didn't show up at the Bristol Club until after 12:30.
And the shots inside Dizzel's place were heard at 11:30.
But why should this Lawrence put a snatch on his uncle? And who's Bruce Madden, Jr.?
Oh, don't you ever read the papers, Ethelbert?
Oh, sure, Miss Williams, but... Oh, Bruce Madden, Jr. is the playboy son of that rich millionaire.
Yeah. Several months ago, Madden Sr. washed his hands of the young screwball and cut off his supply of easy money. And young Madden tried to extort money from his father. Now, Logan figures that he and Bruce Jr. got desperate for the old green stuff and put the snatch on Dizzel in order to get it.
It listens to me like he figures right. Has he put Lawrence and Madden under arrest yet?
No, because he hasn't got any real evidence. They're being watched every minute, though.
Well, Neil Lawrence doesn't look to me like a kidnapper.
He's a good-looking young guy, Ethelbert.
Well, now, that has nothing to do with my opinion. We're not even sure there's been a kidnapping.
No, not yet.
Until there's some proof, such as a demand for ransom, I'm going to believe, well, that Neil Lawrence is simply a victim of circumstances.
Henry. It's 6:30, Henry. Haul yourself out that bed.
Okay, Lou.
Well, we got to get breakfast for Mr. Lawrence now, so hop into your clothes while I go upstairs and fetch in the milk.
Why don't that milkman leave them bottles in front of our basement like he used to?
Cause told him not to. Dogs come sniffing down there. Mr. Lawrence?
Yes, Llewellyn?
It's time to get up.
I haven't been to bed.
Oh, because you're so worried about your uncle. Well, Mr. Lawrence, here's a letter addressed to you.
A letter?
Yes, it was lying half under the door when I took in the milk. It's got no postage stamps on it.
Well, let's see it.
Mr. Lawrence? Mr. Lawrence, you look funny. Is there something in that letter about your uncle?
It's from my uncle.
From Mr. Dizzel?
Yes, I must phone the police. Letter tells me he's being held by kidnappers and that I must raise $150,000 to ensure his safe return.
Yeah, you and Miss Williams can look at the ransom letter, Casey, but not a line about it in your paper until I say okay.
It's off the record, Logan. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He even tells Lawrence how to raise the money. He's to pledge or sell securities and books and borrow whatever else is required. You sure this letter is in Dizzel's handwriting?
It's authentic. We've checked on that.
And someone came here during the night and stuck it under the front door.
Miss Williams, Lawrence stuck it under the door from inside. 4 of my best men were watching the outside of this house, and they say no one came near that door except the milkman.
Well, maybe the milkman.
We're investigating him, but Lawrence is our guy, plus young Madden. Last night they forced Dizzel to write this letter. Then, sometime before morning, Lawrence slid it under the street door for Luella Clarence to find when she went for the milk.
Annie, it looks like the good-looking Mr. Lawrence all the way. Well, you'll let Lawrence raise the ransom dough, then, according to the instructions of this letter, Lawrence.
Yeah, he's out on that job now, trailed by my guys and 2 FBI agents.
FBI?
I notified the feds the moment this letter proved we had a kidnapping case. And they've been nice so far and haven't taken it completely out of my hands.
Excuse me, gentlemen, and Miss Williams.
What is it, Mrs. Clarence?
Well, I got to think that maybe you all come up here without having much breakfast and would like some hot coffee.
Coffee?
Hey, I would.
Oh, me too.
Well, I got some percolating back in the dining room.
Lead us to it.
Come on. You know, the dining room is just behind this room. But you got to go out and around this hall to get to it. This shop here used to be the parlor before Mr. Dizzel had it built into a bookshop.
Did you work here when it was just a residence, Luella?
No, Mr. Casey. Henry and me come here to work about 6 years ago, just a little before Mr. Lawrence did. And Mr. Dizzel, he had the place changed for his bookshop long before that. Well, sit down at that table and I'll serve you coffee and sandwiches.
And sandwiches?
Oh, they're just made out of odds and ends I had in the icebox. I was going to open up some canned ham and chicken to keep for emergencies, but I found that man who might have ate them up.
Your husband's an icebox robber, Luella?
Henry declares up and down he didn't touch nothing, Miss Williams, but he's lied to me before. Here's your coffee.
Oh, Luella, you're a friend in need.
And,
yeah.
Dig into him. I got the makings for more.
You're entertaining a mob who won't hesitate to ask for more, Luella.
Well, that's the kind of people I like to feed.
With pickles for me.
Yeah, it's some fireplace you have in this dining room.
Isn't it a beauty, Casey? It's so big.
Oh, poor Mr. Dizzel loved that old fireplace. But it burned up so much wood. My Henry got miseries in his back from toting it.
Napkin, Logan.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, there's a telephone. Excuse me.
Oh, you have an extension here in the dining room.
Yes, sir. Mr. Dizzel put extensions all over this house. Hello? Yes, sir. Oh, just a minute, sir. It's for you, Captain Logan. Your headquarters calling.
Thanks. Hold this pickle, Casey.
Got it.
Logan speaking. Identification positive? When was he found? How long have you been dead? I'll leave Sergeant Martin in charge here and get right up there.
What is it, Logan?
Yeah, what's up?
Quite a coincidence. Another dealer in rare books, a guy named Vladimir, has just been found shot to death in Eastview Park. And according to the medical examiner, he died at about the same time last night that Adam Dizzel was taken from this house.
And to make the coincidence more coincidental, Ethelbert, it appears that this second book dealer, Vladimir, was killed with a .38 slug of the same type used in the Dizzel shooting.
And he wasn't killed at the spot in Eastview Park where his body was found. No, the medical examiner says that the corpse was thrown out of a moving automobile.
What kind of a book dealer was this Vladimir?
About as different from Dizzel as a piece of glass is different from a diamond. Dizzel's a big-timer with an A1 record, while this Vladimir character has been indicted several times for having stolen books in his possession.
From what you've told me, I can't see any real tie-up between his murder and the Dizzel job. The way that ransom letter was found nails Lawrence for his uncle's kidnapping. And it ain't possible that he and his pal Madden could have been shooting up this Vladimir at the same time.
Now, the evidence against Lawrence is purely circumstantial, Ethelbert. Oh, I got some cleanup work to do at the office. You coming over, Casey?
No, I'm through for the day, Annie. I'll wait around for you here, huh?
Okay. See you both later.
So long, Miss Williams.
Wish I knew more about the rare book racket. I don't trust coincidences, Ethelbert. There must be some connection.
Hey, Ethelbert, how about a little service? Oh, I'll be right with you, Mr. Evans. Excuse me, Casey. I gotta wait on a customer.
Yeah, oh, sure, pal. Go ahead.
Hello, Casey.
Huh?
I've been waiting and watching for you to be alone.
Yeah? Don't think I know you, brother.
And I've lost weight and considerable hair since the last time you saw me. Prison never agreed with me.
Hey, wait a minute. You're the guy that used to call yourself Professor Ishka.
Yes, quite.
Well.
When'd you get out? I'm glad to see you.
Only last week.
How do you know? Captain Logan and I were talking about you only a few days ago. Running into you now, Professor, is like the answer to a prayer.
This meeting is not accidental, Casey. I've been trying to reach you all day.
Yeah? Why should you want to...
I want to talk to you about Adam Dizzel and Paul Vladimir.
Uh-huh. Well, coincidences do happen. What do you know about those two?
I was in their racket.
Yes, I remember.
But you may not recollect a stolen autographed copy of the first and only edition of Mrs. Browning's Sonnets by E.B.B. was responsible for my most recent experience as a guest of the state.
Yeah, it's because I recollected your specific talents.
Wait till there's a vacant table in that corner. It'll be just as well if certain people don't see me with you, so I'll talk fast.
Okay, go ahead.
Casey, I'm not a stoolie, so I can't go to the police. But I've got to get a guy, and you can help me.
Talk straight, Professor.
Is this straight? Paul Vladimir was my brother.
Huh?
And Adam Dizzel killed him.
Dizzel killed Vladimir?
Yes. Casey, the rich and respectable Adam Dizzel, the reliable expert, has been the biggest fence in the hot book racket for 20 years.
Are you on a level?
100%. Dizzel has also been the biggest double-crosser in the racket. My brother Paul and two other gentlemen, whose names you don't have to know, went to his place to collect for some hot stuff they'd passed him on consignment. He sold the stuff, but he refused to pay. He'd attempted that sort of thing before. Paul swung a punch at him. Dizzel thought the three were about to gang up on him, which they were. So he pulled a gun and began shooting. Paul got a bullet in the chest. The others carried him out and went away fast.
It was Vladimir, not Dizzel, who was taken away in that black sedan.
Yes. When Paul died in the car, his friends couldn't risk being found with his body. They had to dump him in the park.
What happened to Dizzel after the shooting?
He took a run out, of course. There wasn't any kidnapping.
Why have you told me this?
Casey, I'm an ex-convict. My word is worth nothing to the police. And, to preserve my criminal standing, of course, I don't dare talk to him anyway. I don't know where Dizzel is hiding out, but with the information I've given you, I think you can find him and see that he pays for the killing of my brother.
I'm going to be pretty sore if this turns out to be a bum steer, Professor.
Casey, believe me, I'm leveling all the way.
I can't tell you who told me this, Logan, but I'm convinced the story's a straight one.
And if it is, Dizzel's deliberately playing up his supposed kidnapping in order to collect $150,000, so he'll be well heeled when he starts for South America or wherever he plans his permanent hideout.
Sure, and his nephew's probably in on the deal.
Yeah, but if Dizzel was dealing in stolen books, we should have found some in his house, and we didn't.
And he must have another joint somewhere. Maybe that's where he's keeping undercover right now.
Yeah. We'll just sit tight till he sends instructions as to how to pay over. Oh, nuts, that phone of mine never stops. Homicide Bureau, Captain Logan. Yes, Sergeant.
Yeah?
Where'd you find it? No, don't open it. I want to see it exactly as you found it. I'll be right up there. Come on, Casey. We're heading for Dizzel's house.
What?
One of my guys on duty there just found a sealed envelope addressed to Neil Lawrence lying on the sidewalk in front of Dizzel's place. This may be the instructions as to how to pay that ransom. It's a letter of instruction from Dizzel, all right, Casey, but not a final instruction. Here, read it.
My dear nephew, my captors demand that you bring the $150,000 I have begged you to raise to my house by tomorrow at the latest. There, it must be kept in readiness for instant delivery. Logan, come outside with me. I want to ask you, Sergeant, something.
What?
Come on, will you? Hey, Sergeant.
Yeah, Casey?
Where did you find this letter addressed to Lawrence exactly?
On the sidewalk, right here.
Underneath the window of Dizzel's office, huh?
Yeah, it was tied to a little rock.
Now, Dizzel himself probably drove by here in a cab and tossed out the weighted envelope.
You kept the rock it was tied to, Sergeant?
On a case like this, we keep everything. Here it is.
Hey, that's not a rock. It's a piece of fire brick.
What's the difference?
Say, look, where's the nearest place you can get a tear gas bomb?
Tear gas? The 6th Precinct Station, a couple of blocks from here.
Yeah, well, have your sergeant get one, pal, will you? Quick.
Oh, look
I'll
here.
explain it in a minute. Now, don't waste time, please.
Okay, Sergeant, get a tear gas bomb.
I'm on my way, Captain.
You better get two.
Now, Casey, what's the big idea?
Logan, I think I know where Mr. Adam Dizzel is hiding.
Casey, if you're right about this, and I'll give you my shield, and you can teach me how to operate a press camera.
Takes a clever guy to operate a press camera.
And it takes a screwball to get your kind of nutty ideas.
You'll know how nutty my idea is in just 15 seconds if your sergeant does his stuff on time.
I will. This shop at Dizzel's is a modern place, Casey. You're figuring as though it was some old European castle.
Here's the first tear gas, Mom.
Fell behind that wall, all right.
Straight down the chimney. There goes number 2. I'd have your gun ready, Logan. Our guy faces a murder rap, and he's got a .38.
Hey, that section of bookshelves, Casey, is swinging out like a door.
Yes, and our kidnapped book dealer is coming from behind him. Drop that gun, Dizzel, and stick up your hands.
All right, but let me get air. Oh, that gas. Let me get air.
Let's all get fresh air, Logan. The tear gas has filled this room. Logan, I haven't cried so much since the Dodgers... Well, you know.
That fella Dizzel was hiding in his own house, Casey, in a secret chamber?
Secret chamber describes it too romantically, Ethelbert. When Dizzel had the living room of that old mansion remodeled into an office and a bookshop, he had bookcases built across the opening of a very big fireplace that was there. And that section of bookcase was hinged like a door.
And the fireplace behind it gave him a handy and altogether hidden little room in which to store stolen books. And when he suddenly needed a hiding place for himself, well, he had it.
He got plenty of air through the chimney, and at night he sneaked into the kitchen and got supplies of food and water. And he planted the ransom note under the door himself.
And his housekeeper told us that she thought her husband was robbing the icebox.
When did you start to get wise to the setup, Casey?
Not too long after I should have been. I'd noticed a big fireplace in the dining room and wondered why there wasn't one in the original parlor. And the door of the bookshop was found locked after the shooting, and I'd wondered why guys leaving in such a hurry had bothered to lock it.
And Dizzel had locked it, Ethelbert, to make sure no one could get in before he'd opened and closed his secret chamber. And he's confessed that his nephew had no part in the affair at all.
Everything finally added up when Logan said that Lawrence had put the dough in Dizzel's office safe. That was a logical place to put it, and it suddenly hit me that was what Dizzel figured and wanted, so he could come out and get it. Then when I saw the piece of fire brick that had been tied to the second ransom letter, I knew my total was right.
Yeah, but how did he figure he'd get away with that money when there was cops all around the place?
Well, he meant to climb up the flue of the big chimney and make his getaway over the roofs of adjoining houses.
Well, Annie, how about taking you home now?
Well, not tonight, Casey. I have I have a date with Mr. Lawrence.
Huh?
I knew he couldn't be a kidnapper.
Hey.
Casey looks like he ain't so sure about that, Miss Williams. Not so sure.
This is the United States Armed Forces Radio Service, the voice of information and education.
This I believe. A man's heritage comes through in his character and helps shape it, like the banks influence the course of a river. Ray P. Kleberger, now an advertising executive, draws on the stern strength of a New England background in his approach to living.
From ancestors who scraped a living from the beautiful Grand Hills of Vermont, I believe I learned that to live at all is difficult, but to live a stern and frugal life will bring one more happiness and more years to enjoy that happiness. A characteristic of Vermonters is their terse, almost blunt, and entirely straightforward method of talking. This straightforwardness, I believe, will bring greater happiness to more people than all the Pollyanna stuff I have ever heard. I believe that God gives most of us, to start with, a wonderful machine, our mind, body, and soul, and that we are doing ourselves a great disservice if we do not take such meticulous care of this machine that it will serve us comfortably for many years. That, I believe, is another way of saying, don't rust out, wear out. And if I try to wear out with helpful work and exercise, I find my physical and mental machine serves me well and grows more efficient with use. I believe I must never take advantage of those who are not blessed with as much health and strength as has been given me, nor must I ever take pleasure in the failures of others. On the contrary, I believe that great satisfaction comes from helping others. I believe there's very little joy in life that is lived solely for oneself. I believe in being dissatisfied with myself and creating dissatisfaction in others, the kind of dissatisfaction that will turn people from an unwholesome, uninformed, or unsatisfactory life, the kind of dissatisfaction that will make them better their own lives and thus better the lives of others. This, I believe, has aided me in the past and will continue to aid me to have a happier and more friendly existence. I believe in education for everyone, not just in the fine arts alone, but also in the practical things we need to know how to live in this troubled world. The kind of education that teaches our children the true economics of living and teaches them before they have their minds filled with confused and confusing theories that will only retard their progress in earning a living and contributing their share to the advancement of the world. I believe in being truthful, not from a deep-seated religious feeling, but because it is much the easier way to live. No one has ever successfully been deceitful over a long period of time, for it is much too hard work to remember what you have previously said that is untrue. Telling the truth is very easy, for then one need not even try to remember what has been said before. Truth is always the same. I believe in the finer things in life, music, paintings, literature, all the things we rely on to give us relaxation and pleasure. I further believe that these things are the followers of trade and not the forerunners. I believe culture has always taken root where commerce has introduced and nations are using the new discoveries and inventions that have been developed by those dissatisfied people who are determined that we shall live better and happier lives.
You have heard the personal philosophy of Ray P. Kleberger, Vice President of the Owen and Chappell Advertising Agency, for many years head of the National Better Business Bureau. He holds a golf club with an expert's hand, but more important, he has a firm hold on the fundamental realities of life.
Crime does not pay. Never mind a crybaby act, Fuller. You're old enough to know what you've been doing.
You've got to give me time, that's all. Just some time.
Signed this IOU, didn't you, for 10 grand?
Look, Toppy, if you'll only have patience, if you'll only wait a little. I'm coming into money, in my uncle's will.
How long am I supposed to wait for that?
Only until my uncle dies.
In the interest of good citizenship and law enforcement, we present Crime Does Not Pay, based on the famous Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer series of short subjects. In just a moment, you will hear Glossy Finish, starring Martin Gable. now, Crime Does Not Pay, starring Martin Gable as John Fuller in Glossy Finish. The crime of murder, the last act of desperate violence on the part of an individual, has never been confined to one group of people. No social or economic group, no race or people or nation is free from the crime of murder. For instance, the well-ordered household of multimillionaire David Fuller was hardly the place where one would expect murder. It was a smooth-running, apparently happy household. There was David himself, his nephew John, his faithful secretary, Charles Duval, his housekeeper, Martha Frank. This was the permanent unit, modest, efficient, quiet. Then, one day, David Fuller called his household together and started the train of events which brought about his own death.
Now, John, come in. We've been waiting for you.
I'm sorry, Uncle David. I had your message at the office, but there was the usual traffic jam. Hello, Martha. Hello, Charlie.
No matter. Sit down, John. Sit down.
Thank you. Anything wrong?
Well, no, hardly. Just getting my affairs in order, that's all.
Oh, in other words, Uncle David, you've made a will.
Exactly. Now, Charles here seems to think that what's in that document is nobody's business but my own. However, it's quite simple. The sudden acquisition of comparative wealth may be a shock which can have disastrous results on some very fine people. I want you all prepared to handle money.
Me, Mr. David? Me with money?
The income from $250,000 will be yours, Martha, as long as you outlast me.
Oh, sir.
That's one provision of the boresome legal document whose legal language I refuse to confuse you with. Now, I have made certain provisions for my favorite charities, and then, well, you two young fellows have been the nearest to sons I've ever had. So the residual estate, about $1 million, will be divided equally between you.
What?
After taxes and all, you'll have about $500,000 apiece.
Uncle David.
Oh, really, sir? Don't you think... Well, after all, I'm no blood relation.
Well, you've been closer to me these 10 years than anyone but John, and it's my money. I earned it.
May I say something, Uncle David?
Of course, John.
Just that I don't want Martha or Charlie to think that I feel they're getting something I ought to have. You've given me a home since Dad died, and anything I've ever wanted. All I can say, sir, is that I hope and I trust that it'll be a long time before any of us see that bequest.
Here she comes, Johnny.
Not bad at all. Who is she, a professional model?
Oh, I'll have to tell her that. She'll love it. No, she's a girl I met a couple of months ago, Dorothy Mason.
Months? And you've been holding out on me that long?
I know your fatal attraction, pal.
Thanks, pal. What kind of print you making, Matty or glossy?
Oh, the contacts I'm making glossy. You can take the blow-ups out of there now and put them in the fixer.
Right. The curry plate ready?
It's still on the shelf. Get it, will you?
Sure. Hey, what's that doing there?
Ammonia compound. No dark room complete without it.
What for?
Ever read the label on the ferrocyanide bottle?
No. All I noticed was the skull and crossbones. That's when I decided the glossy finish was for other folks. Me, I'll stick to the matte finishes. I don't like poison.
Well, just in case. Ammonia is the antidote for poisoning by potassium ferrocyanide. Formula K3FeCN6.
Charles Duval, the complete secretary, even to chemistry.
Oh, why not? Majored in it at college. Took up shorthand when I had to earn a living.
That's funny. I took it, too. Chemistry, I mean. But just freshman stuff. Never fooled around with the cyanide. Will you excuse me, Uncle David?
Well, you haven't had your coffee, John.
I know, but I've got a date for 8:30. I can just make it now.
She must be important, Charles, if John's so anxious to be on time for her.
She must be. Anyone I know, Johnny?
No, nobody that either of you knows. Will you pardon me, please?
Yes, of course, John. Run along.
Thank you, sir.
Do you expect to be late?
No, not very.
Excuse me, Mr. David, Mr. John. Will you have coffee in here or in the library?
Library, Martha, please. Mr. Charles and I have a few papers to go over.
Very well, sir. And Mr. John?
Martha, I'm going out. I may be a little late. Now, before you go to bed, will you leave the chain off the front door for me?
My rheumatism's been bothering me, Mr. John. I'll be going up as soon as the kitchen is in order. Perhaps Mr. Charles...
I'm going home tonight, John, so the chain will be off after I let myself out.
Oh, well, my young man, you're going to make a night of it, it seems.
If going straight home to bed is making a night of it, sir.
And my appointment in the nature of business, Uncle David.
Listen to the Martha. And let's get along with what we have to do, Charles. Maybe I can get you on your way earlier than you expect.
Okay, come in.
Good evening, Mr. Carter.
My friends and the people who owe me money call me Toppy. Maybe because they know I always come out on top. You got the dough?
No, I haven't.
All right, then.
What are you doing?
Making a phone call, obviously, to a Mr. David Fuller.
You can't do that, Toppy.
Oh, can't
I'll get the money. Somehow, somewhere, but you can't call my uncle. He'll disinherit me. He thinks gambling is a sucker's racket.
Isn't it? For the suckers who gamble?
Now, please, have a little more patience, Toppy. I came on the minute tonight so that you'd know that I mean to pay.
Never mind the crybaby act, Fuller. You're old enough to know what you've been doing. You signed this IOU, didn't you? For 10 grand?
Look, Toppy, if you'll only have a little patience, if you'll only wait a little. I'm coming into money in my uncle's will.
How long am I supposed to wait for that?
Only until my uncle dies.
Good night, Mr. Fuller. Yeah, good night, Charles. Oh, Charles, my watch seems to have stopped. What time have you?
12:15, sir.
Oh, thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Charles, dear.
Dorothy, darling.
I figured your boss and benefactor couldn't keep you all night, so I waited.
I'm sorry, darling. I couldn't help it. For a man who claims he's retired from business, he does more work.
And at the oddest hours. This is the 4th night in 3 weeks that we've had a date. He's made you work. Are you sure he doesn't know about us?
No one knows, dear, except Johnny.
You finally told him.
Well, he walked into the dark room the other day while I was making prints of those pictures I took of him.
I see.
By the way, I've got the glossies with me, having the enlargements framed. Do you want to see these?
I want to see you. I'm in love with you. Heaven help me. Now I want to be with you.
And I want to be with you for the rest of our lives.
It looks from here as if the rest of our lives is going to be a mighty short period.
Well, I can't leave him now.
I know. I've heard it before. The will again.
$500,000 after taxes. Isn't that worth waiting for?
I'd like to spend a little of it while we're young enough to enjoy it.
I know, darling, I know. Maybe... You never know with anyone as old as he is. Maybe it'll be all over sooner than you think.
Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, it's 9 o'clock. Mr. Fuller. Are you up, Mr. Fuller? Funny. He's always up by this time. Funny. Smells almost like almond paste in here. Mr. Fuller. Oh, no. Mr. Fuller. Oh, no.
Martha, stop that. Martha. Uncle David.
He's dead. He's dead in his bed. My poor Mr. David.
Martha, stop it. Did you close the windows?
Windows? No, No, I never touched anything.
And Martha, that long-necked laboratory bottle on the night table. Have you ever seen that bottle before?
In just a moment, Crime Does Not Pay will continue with Glossy Finish. Now, we continue with Crime Does Not Pay, starring Martin Gable as John Fuller in Glossy Finish. There was grief and uproar in the Fuller house after Martha, the housekeeper, discovered the body of David Fuller. The presence of the long-necked glass laboratory bottle or flask on the night table, the tightly closed windows, the faint but definite smell of almonds in the air, all pointed to very mysterious happenings in David's room. John immediately called the police. Before a half hour had passed, the room and the house were overrun with uniformed policemen, technical experts, detectives, and the staff of the medical examiner.
Well, Doc, what does it look like?
It looks like what it is. Cyanide poisoning.
Suicide?
Murder.
I haven't seen any food around.
Didn't get it in food. You're looking at the murder weapon.
That glass bottle? I don't get it.
You smelled the bitter almonds odor?
Until Johnson opened the window, yes.
Hydrocyanic acid. Hydrogen cyanide gas.
Same thing they use in the gas chambers out west?
That's right.
Well, how could anybody get a hold of that?
Well, that's your job, Lieutenant. You're the man in charge of homicide around here.
Hey, Lieutenant, can I bother you a minute?
What's on your mind, Johnson?
Something funny on the windowsill.
What?
Flies. 10 flies. Counted them.
Alive or dead?
Well, dead, of course. Enough gas to kill a man would kill all the insects, too.
Yeah, they're dead.
Okay, so the flies are dead. So what?
Doc, how long ago did the old man die?
Rough estimate, at least 4 hours, no more than 10.
They found the body just before 9 o'clock. Johnson, get me that housekeeper.
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Frank, in here, please.
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Frank, perhaps you can help us.
Well, I'll try, sir.
Is there any poison kept around the house?
No, sir. Only the usual roach paste and things like that.
Doc?
Arsenic base. No good.
Is there any other kind of chemical around here that you know about?
Well, do they use chemicals in photography, sir?
Do they use chemicals?
Easy, Johnson.
Oh, yes, sir.
Miss Frank, will you show us the dark room, please? The place where the work in photography is done.
Quite a layout, Lieutenant. Look at that enlarger.
Yeah, plenty of money spent on this.
But plenty, Lieutenant.
The young man had this as a hobby, I guess, sir.
The nephew and the secretary?
Yes, sir.
Say, look here, Lieutenant.
What's that? Looks like a hunk of tin to me.
It's a fairy plate, sir.
What's it used for?
Well, you know those shiny prints you get when you have pictures developed?
Go on.
They make them shiny by rolling them out and drying them on this after they've been in a solution of iron salt. Iron ferrous. Fairy plate.
How do you know so much about all this?
I used to play around with photography myself when I was a kid.
You said iron salts, Johnson?
Yes, Doc. There ought to be a bottle of it around somewhere.
Yeah, nothing here. What do you buy for this work?
Well, there's lots of trade names. The stuff is potassium ferrous cyanide, though.
That does it. K3FeCN6.
Explain yourself, Doc.
Simple enough. Although whoever did it would have to know something about chemistry.
What do you about chemistry around here, Miss Frank?
Well, sir,
Say it. Which one of the young men?
both, sir. They both took chemistry in college.
Better and better. Go on, Doc. How was it done?
Well, all he had to do was to add some hydrochloric acid in that flask upstairs, you see. He sneaks into the room while the old man's sleeping, puts the flask on the table, drops in some of this ferricyanide. The hydrogen from the acid combines with the cyanide. Boom. That's all. Death from hydrogen cyanide poisoning.
You're sure of this, Doc?
Sure as I can be before we analyze what's in that flask. But I'll bet roughly 50 to 1 on it.
Well, we know how, but why?
He was pretty rich. It was in his will.
You know anything about that will, Mrs. Frank?
I'm in it, sir. A trust fund.
And the boys? Well, Mrs. Frank?
They both... he told us once. They both get a lot of money, sir.
Well. All right, Doc. Get going on your analysis. Johnson, get those 2 young gentlemen ready for me. I'll take them on one at a time.
Yeah, Lieutenant.
Well, what's bothering you? 2 ready-made suspects, and you're worried?
It's those flies, Lieutenant. They've got to fit in somewhere. I'll be doggone if I can figure where.
You are Mr. Fuller's nephew?
Yes, Lieutenant. I called you when the housekeeper found him.
Yes, I know. Mr. Fuller, I understand you have some knowledge of chemistry and photography.
Well, photography quite a little. As for chemistry, I had about a year of it in college.
How long ago was that?
Longer than I care to think.
Most of us feel that way after a while. Mr. Fuller, what time did you come home last night?
About 1 or 1:30 this morning.
Was that late for you?
Some. I asked Martha to leave the chain off the door. Uncle David always insisted on chains and bolts at night.
That's an odd object you're tossing in your hand.
Oh, this is a chip from a gambling den. One of my friends had it. Never saw one quite like it before.
May I see?
Certainly.
Monogram. Mr. Fuller, did you put the chain on the door when you came home last night?
To be frank, I don't think I did.
I see. Then, in that case, anyone with a key to the front door might have had access to this house even after you came home.
Well, surely, Lieutenant, you don't think that Charles Dubo had anything to do with
your uncle's death? I'm not thinking anything at the moment, Mr. Fuller. I'm merely gathering the facts and sorting the truth from the window dressing. So your story, Mr. Dubo, is that you called goodnight to Mr. Fuller. He answered you when you left this house about 12:15 and did not come back.
Exactly, Lieutenant.
Do you have any corroborating evidence?
You mean an alibi?
Yes. I'm afraid you'll have to find an alibi, Mr. Dubo. You had motive, opportunity, an excellent knowledge of chemistry by your own admission.
All right, Lieutenant. My alibi is Dorothy Mason. She lives at 419 Sutter Street. Dorothy will tell you the truth.
Yes, I waited for him, Lieutenant. I was angry. Another broken date. I wanted to have it out with him.
And when did you separate?
It was late.
How late? I'm sorry, Miss Mason. I must have the answer.
It was after sunrise.
I see. I doubt if it will be necessary for this to go any farther than me, Miss Mason.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
One more question, Miss Mason. Has Mr. Dubo ever made any statement to you about his employer, about the will, about any possible desire to see Mr. Fuller dead?
Yes. Last night, when I was quarreling with him, he did say Mr. Fuller might die soon.
All right, Poppy, this is one of your unique chips, isn't it?
So what?
I found it in the hand of John Fuller.
That jerk owes me plenty. I gave the sucker a break. He asked me to wait until his uncle died. Okay, I figured. Good enough. 10 grand in live money is worth more than taking care of a fathead like Johnny Fuller.
Now, what do we got? Poison available. of them knew about it. Dubo, maybe more than Fuller. Nobody heard the old man say goodnight to the secretary except Dubo himself. He could have gone back if the girl is covering for him.
I know, Lieutenant. But you said yourself you think she's telling the truth.
Watch her driving. Sure, she's telling the truth. But the old boy could have been dead when Dubo left the house.
Well, my candidate's the nephew.
Why? Any more than the secretary?
Well, he knew the same stuff as Dubo. And he was in the house all night. At least the housekeeper says so.
You heard her yourself. Up all night with rheumatism. She heard every sound in the house. She says the nephew never left his room.
Yeah, sure. Maybe he wore woolen socks. No noise.
Only one thing we left out, Johnson, the time. It had to be done between 11 at night and 5 in the morning.
Well, that's how we've been figuring. But there's something else we left out.
What, for instance?
The flies. 10 dead flies on the windowsill.
You and those flies, Johnson, for the love of... Hey, wait a minute.
Think you got something?
I think I've got the killer. Turn back, Johnson. Use a siren. We're heading for the residence of the late David Fuller. Come in.
Your assistant told me you were in here, Lieutenant. Glad to see you.
And vice versa, Mr. Fuller. Shut the door, Johnson. And bring that book over here.
Right, Lieutenant. May I know what's going on?
Of course. That's why we asked you here. Mr. Fuller, are you familiar with this book?
The World Almanac? Yes, I know it. I haven't used one in years.
Perhaps you should have. No matter now. Detective Johnson here was plagued with an idea. The almanac helped him out.
You're talking in riddles, Lieutenant.
You explain it to him, Johnson.
Be glad to. It was the flies, Mr. Fuller. Those dead flies in the windowsill of your uncle's room. Those again? We had quite a few chuckles over your flies, Detective. Yes. Well, Mr. Fuller, it's funny about flies. They sleep at night.
Yes, so they do.
On walls and ceilings, don't they?
Glad you noticed that. But these flies were on the windowsill.
Something drew them to the windowsill.
And that's where the almanac came in. You see here on this page, Mr. Fuller.
Table of sunrise and sunset for the month of June.
And the date of your uncle's murder was June 19th. And the sun rose at 4:22 a.m. that day, which means it was light as early as 4. Light enough, Mr. Fuller, for the flies to be awakened and to be drawn toward the window and be caught there by the poison gas which kills your uncle.
What's all this to do with me?
You were in this house at that time. The housekeeper dozed off.
But the chain, anybody could have come in.
Meaning Charles Dubo?
Well, certainly, or anybody. Martha herself, she's in the will, too.
They won't do, Fuller. We know where Dubo was past sunrise. Miss Frank doesn't know one chemical from another. And you were in trouble with Hoppy Carter to the tune of $10,000.
You can't make it stick. You'll never make it stick.
We think we will, Fuller. We think we'll find that bottle of ferrous cyanide somewhere in your room.
You think I'd be dumb enough to leave it around?
All right.
You win. But I came close, didn't I? As close as anyone could and not get away with it. Like coming close to winning at Toppy's and then dropping every dollar. Uncle David was rather enjoyed it, I imagine. Having his death avenged by a few dead flies.
Crime does not pay. Martin Gable, who was starred as John Fuller in Glossy Finish, will be back with you in just a moment.
This I believe. Dr. Raymond B. Allen is Chancellor of the University of California at Los Angeles. His career in university administration goes back 19 years. Against this background of study and service, Dr. Raymond Allen states his creed.
I shall never forget a lesson in responsibility my mother taught me. She showed me that a younger brother learning to throw a baseball was really not responsible for breaking the bay window of the parsonage. She told me, "You should have known better than to play catch with him so close to the house. You are your brother's keeper." I was fortunate in having fine parents who insisted that I participate fully in the work and play of building a successful family life. This meant doing my best at school, working at odd jobs, attending church to hear my father preach, and being responsible for my every act. There were 6 children. As a preacher's family, we moved often, a sometimes painful process, but it taught us how to make adjustments easily and find new friends. To go to college was a privilege to be earned, because there wasn't much more than enough money for the family necessities. Life was always good and hopeful, but involved many sacrifices. I believe the family is the chief factor in shaping our habits of behavior, whether they are good or bad. Believing this, I take my responsibilities as a parent seriously. Because of my own wonderful family, I feel that I am the most fortunate of men. I have an able, thoughtful, and yet gay wife and 4 lively, interesting children entrusted to my care. In them I see the wonder and uniqueness of the human personality and spirit in all its luminosity. I believe in the perfectibility of man and in his essential goodness. Adventurous, fast-moving years in the study and practice of medicine, in teaching and research, and in administrative work have given me intimate contact with all kinds and conditions of men. Almost all of them were good people. No one of them was really bad at heart. All of them were trying to find happiness, and to accomplish this, paraphrasing Justice Holmes, they were fighting consciously or unconsciously for the kind of a world they wanted. I believe that I can best find security within myself and with my God if I explore our always changing world of men and nature unafraid, giving of myself freely along the way. An active exploration of the world of nature and of men, of their ideas, ideals, and moral values, can lead me to reflection and toward understanding and maturity of judgment, and even, perhaps, to wisdom and to truth. I believe that creative people are traveling ever brighter roads which converge toward an ever fuller understanding of man and his place in the universe of nature and of God, and toward a better world. I believe that men who are free to be creative are solving the age-old problems of how to find security without losing freedom. While history is a story of man's successes and failures in achieving the good life, the record shows a steady, though often interrupted, rise to higher ground. I have faith that men who have lost their freedom to an all-powerful state will one day break their chains and be free again to develop their potentialities to the fullest and to seek God and worship Him as they choose. I am grateful to be an American in this period of the greatest renaissance of the human spirit in history, when all that we hold dear is being put to the ultimate test. Finally, I believe that if we keep faith with ourselves and our God, no power on earth can destroy us.
That was Dr. Raymond B. Allen, Chancellor of UCLA.
Calling all detectives. The vice president of a great railroad was so proud of his line that he wouldn't admit that anybody could commit suicide on one of his trains. That is the situation on this page from my casebook. The casebook of Jerry Browning, private detective. When a private detective like me, Jerry Browning, works on a retainer basis, the best he can hope for is to keep his job. Wilbur Norris, first vice president of the Great Valley Railroad, and I were sitting in the observation car of a Great Valley train at Northbridge, Minnesota. We'd been up there a week on a case involving right-of-way and were finally heading home. About half an hour after we'd started...
All tickets, please. I am Wilbur Norris, conductor. Mr. Browning and I are riding on passes. Oh, yes, sir, Mr. Norris. I recognize you.
Encouraged by Norris's smile, the conductor added,
We've got a celebrity with us this trip, Mr. Norris. He's Dane Colby, the movie star. Just finished doing some location shots around Northbridge.
Colby, eh? What space has he got? I'd like to meet him.
The conductor hesitated.
I don't think it's better, sir. Mr. Colby is traveling incognito.
Norris shrugged, looked disappointed. The train and Pullman conductors passed us and a man seated alongside of me. The man spoke up. I'm not with these gentlemen, conductor. Don't you want my ticket?
Oh, excuse me, sir. I thought we already collected yours further back.
The man smiled, shook his head, and produced his ticket. That's all there was to it. At 6 o'clock, Norris and I had dinner, then retired to our double bedroom. About 10 o'clock...
Mr. Norris, that movie star, Dane Colby, just jumped off the train into the Tuscaloosa River.
While riding on one of the Great Valley Railroad's cracked trains, a movie star committed suicide.
Absolutely, utterly preposterous. I do not permit suicides on my trains. Browning, find Colby. I am going to sleep.
I shrugged. Yes, sir, Mr. Norris. There was no use holding up the train. If Colby did jump into the river, nothing could be done about it in that blackness. I set up investigating headquarters in the dining car. Who's Colby's car porter?
Me, sir. Jose Guardo.
Jose, did you notice whether Mr. Colby was agitated or behaved unusually in any way?
No, sir. He didn't say anything much.
The only other people who'd had any contact with Colby were the conductors and a dining car waiter who served Colby's dinner in his compartment.
He ordered a good dinner, sir, and ate it, too. Gave me a fine tip, $5.
I turned to the conductor. Did Colby actually identify himself as such to any of you? Developed that far from identifying himself, Colby had tried to keep his identity secret. Wore heavily smoked glasses constantly. And how can you be sure he was Dane Colby? The conductor shrugged.
Couldn't mistake him, Mr. Browning. Everybody knew he was on location at Northbridge. Besides that yellow hair and those freak sports shirts he wears, you couldn't mistake him.
A man doesn't want his presence known, yet wears freak sports shirts. He eats a big dinner a couple of hours before committing suicide. I'm beginning to agree with Mr. Norris. I think Dane Colby, or somebody who wanted us to think he's Dane Colby, is still on the train. Conductor, I want the ticket of every passenger checked again. Colby, or somebody impersonating him, may be hiding on the train. The conductor led the way back to the observation car, then started to work his way forward. When you were collecting tickets, you started from the head end of the train back. How come you're working the other way this time?
We generally work from the observation car forward. This afternoon I had business at the baggage car, so we worked the other way for a change.
What with having to wake people up, it took well over an hour to work through only half the train. We passed the car where Colby's space had been, found nobody who couldn't account for himself. Then, 2 cars ahead of Colby's.
Sorry to disturb you, sir. We'll have to check your ticket again.
The passenger was the man whose ticket the conductor had almost failed to pick up in the observation car. Conductor, this afternoon in the observation car, what made you think you'd already picked up this gentleman's ticket? Now, see here, I've been bothered enough. Here's my ticket and get out of here. Answer my question, conductor. The conductor wrinkled his brow.
Well, Mr. Browning, when we're working our way through the cars, anybody who passes from a section we've already covered in the direction we're working isn't stopped because we've already seen his ticket. But somebody going the other way has to show his ticket right then and there before he can get by us. I thought I remembered seeing this gentleman pass from the collected ticket area toward the observation car, but it seems I was wrong.
I can figure out a way which would make you right. I turned to the passenger. What's your name and business? Leonard Turner. I'm a director for Peacock Pictures. Mr. Turner, that means you knew Dane Colby, who disappeared off the train a little while ago. I'm sorry, but you'll have to let me inspect your baggage. Turner protested, politely at first, then violently, and finally tried to pull a gun on me, but I've been expecting that. Yeah, I found the yellow wig and the freak sports shirt in his valise. Colby never had been on the train. Turner admitted that he'd killed the star and buried his body near Northbridge, because Colby, a fading star, had blamed Turner for his poor work and had the director fired. So Turner killed him, buried his body, and then tried to establish Colby's presence on the train as a build-up for a phony suicide. Later, I tried to explain to Norris the reasoning that trapped Turner. You see, Mr. Norris, Turner had a room in his own name up ahead of the space occupied by Colby. He knew the conductor worked from the head end of the train backward and figured that he'd surrender his ticket as Colby, then walk past the conductor and discard his disguise before the conductor got to Turner's space. It was Turner's tough luck that for once the conductor reversed his usual procedure. The only thing Turner could then do was remove the Colby disguise and go on back to the observation car. But the conductor noticed him passing and assumed that he'd already collected Turner's ticket.
Browning, I haven't the slightest idea what you're talking about. However, I said nobody commits suicide on a Great Valley train. I was right. Why did it take you so long to solve such a simple matter?
Well, that's all. Northbridge police recovered Colby's body, and Turner drew a life sentence. As for me, well, like I said, when you're working for a big-time executive, he has the right to second guess on everything, including murder. Listen next time to Calling All Detectives, mystery drama, mystery quiz, and a chance for you to match wits with yours truly, Jerry Browning, private detective.
Murder at midnight.
That gun won't do you any good. Besides, you're pointing it the wrong way.
I'm pointing it right between your eyes.
That's what I mean.
Midnight. The witching hour when the night is darkest. Our fear is the strongest, and our strength at its lowest ebb. Midnight, when the graves gape open and death strikes. How? You'll learn the answer in just a minute in Wherever I Go. And now, Murder at Midnight. Tales of mystery and terror by Masters of the Macabre. Our story, A Study in Crime and Retribution, is by William Morwood. Its title, Wherever I Go. The music room of an old country mansion. Seated at the piano, playing with the skill of an accomplished musician, is Gordon Ormsby. Engrossed in what he is doing, he is not aware his wife, Ellen, has come in until...
For goodness sakes, Gordon, when are you going to stop that pounding?
What? Well, I thought you enjoyed music, my dear.
I do when it's well played. Oh, don't be childish. You might have a little consideration for my headache.
You and your headaches. There's nothing whatever wrong with you. The doctors have as good as told you that. It's all in your mind. The affectation of a silly rich woman.
Lucky for you I am rich. Well, where would you be now?
Someplace where I'd amount to something. I had talents when I married you, Ellen. I could have been a great musician or a great painter or writer.
You were what you are now, what you always will be. A dilettante, a dabbler.
It's your money that ruined me, softened me up, robbed me of my ambition.
If you hate my money so much, there's nothing to prevent you walking out on it.
I will. Someday.
Not if I know you. You'll stick around as long as I have a penny left. Oh, my head.
Oh, you poor, poor darling.
Oh, I don't expect sympathy from you, but, when I feel like this, I could kill myself.
That would be too much to hope for.
Wouldn't it be nice for you, Gordon? Little me out of the way, and all my wicked money to spend exactly as you pleased. But don't worry. I'll live to a ripe old age, just to spite you.
I'd never thought of it before. Her dying. Never. But after that, I couldn't get it out of my head. There was so much I could do with her money. I could go abroad, study. But first, I had to get rid of her. It was dangerous even to think about, but I conceived a plan and developed it carefully, slowly, step by step. Ellen, we've got rats in the cellar. I saw signs of them today.
How awful. We must do something about it.
Ellen, have you done anything about those rats?
I ordered some stuff from the drugstore.
Well, there's only one thing that's any good, and you'll have to get a prescription for that. Arsenic. Let's eat home on Thursday, Ellen.
No, but it's a servants' night out, and we always go to a restaurant.
I know, but I want to try my hand at cooking up something.
Well, it's sure to be poison, but... All right.
We ate dinner at home on Thursday, the two of us alone together. Afterwards, Ellen complained of a headache and went up to her room. I followed a little later.
This is a surprise.
I brought you a cup of cocoa, my dear, to help put you to sleep.
That's suspiciously thoughtful of you, Gordon.
I'm afraid it's still too hot to drink. I'll put it down here.
What have you done to your hand?
What?
It's all bandaged up.
Oh, I scalded it in the kitchen. It's a nuisance, too. I wanted to write tonight.
What are you working on now, Shakespeare? Your memoirs?
No, dear. I don't expect to die for a while yet. No, it's a story about a girl suffering from an incurable disease who commits suicide.
Sounds morbid to me.
Oh, but it's not. I'm making it very tender and beautiful. As a matter of fact, I did mean to write the death scene tonight. With this hand, Say, Ellen, would you help me out?
How?
Well, I've got the girl's suicide note all set in my mind. I can't write with this. Would you write it down while I dictate it?
Oh, do it yourself tomorrow.
Oh, please. It'll only take a minute. Please.
Oh, all right. Where's some paper?
Here.
But that's my very best stationery. I hate to waste it.
It won't be wasted. Ready?
Yes.
Here goes. It's, I can't stand the pain any longer. Nobody knows how much I've suffered. Death will be peaceful compared to this.
Wait a minute.
What? What's wrong?
You're going too fast.
Oh.
Death will be... What?
Peaceful compared to this. Forgive me for what I'm doing, but this is the only way out. Signed...
Yes?
Ellen.
What?
I named her that, dear, because she reminded me of you, so noble in her suffering. I thought you'd be pleased.
Well, I'm not. You'll have to think of some other name.
All right. Jane.
Jane?
You remember Jane Turner, the girl I was going with when I met you? I don't think she'd mind.
But I would. There. It's signed... Ellen.
Thank you, my dear. You don't know how much this means to me.
Oh, my head's splitting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Cocoa? Drink it. That should end your headache. Drink it, Ellen.
Tastes queer.
Well, I couldn't find the sugar, so I sweetened it with maple syrup.
Well, I don't suppose it'll kill me.
Drink it all. Drink it all.
There. Oh.
What's the matter?
Oh, that pain. Gordon, do something. Why are you?
It won't be long now, Ellen.
You mean
that arsenic you bought for the rats.
You're mad. They'll hang you for this.
No, Ellen. Oh, no. You have left a note behind. It's a clear case of suicide. I was shaking all over. Yet my nerves had to be steady for what lay ahead of me. My own life depended on it. Music, that would relax me. The piano. I raced downstairs for the music room, but before I reached it, I heard the playing. I pushed open the door. A man was sitting there. A man I'd never seen before, but who was somehow vaguely familiar.
Hello.
Who are you?
Don't you know?
Well, of course not. What are you doing here?
There was nobody at the piano. I didn't think you'd mind.
Well, I do mind. How'd you get in? The door's locked.
Is it? I didn't notice.
Breaking and entering, huh? I've got a good mind to call the police.
I'm sorry you're so suspicious. Still, I realize the strain you must be under.
What do you mean by that?
I'm afraid I'm interrupting you in business vital to both of us. I'll call again some other time.
Oh, wait. You can't leave like this. At least tell me your name.
I have many different names. When the time comes, you can call me by any one of them. Goodbye.
I put the stranger out of my mind. Too much depended on the telephone call I had to make. A single slip-up now, and a rope was waiting for me. I dialed with shaking fingers. Dr. Sampson, this is Gordon Ormsby. You must come at once. Ellen is dead. I think she's taken poison. It worked out, just as I'd planned, just as I'd hoped it would. The doctor's visit, the police, the inquest, no false moves, no suspicions. I became the sole inheritor of a large estate and a free man. I moved out of the old house and into a hotel suite in town. I don't know when it started to happen, but I first knew that something was wrong, and my fingers would no longer obey me at the piano. Nothing but calm. Rather, nothing but discards. I decided that my nerves were overstrained, that I needed a rest. I figured a trip somewhere would do me good. I went to the telephone to order my car brought around first thing in the morning, but before I picked up the receiver... Yes?
I'm going with you, Gordon.
Who is this?
Your friend. I'll see you first thing in the morning.
But...
Operator.
Operator, you cut me off. I was making a very important call.
There must be some mistake, sir. There was no call on your line.
I didn't wait. I couldn't. I packed that evening. I slipped a gun into my pocket. I left the hotel. By 11 o'clock, I was far out in the open country, driving west. The night was pitch black. Every mile, I burrowed further into the darkness. Then suddenly, a terrible conviction came over me. I knew I wasn't alone.
I'm coming up front now, Gordon.
You?
I said I was coming with you.
When did you get in this car?
I've been here right along. You drive well, Gordon. A cool head and a steady hand. But then you had to have them, didn't you?
What does that mean?
I was just thinking out loud. The money's nice, but music means a lot, too, doesn't it? A pity that went sour on you.
Look, I don't know who you are or what you're talking about.
And yet you proved a point to Ellen. You proved that you were an artist in a way, even though she couldn't live to appreciate it. Her death was your masterpiece.
The sweat stood out on my forehead. My mouth was dry. I didn't want it this way. One murder was enough to haunt me. But he left me with no alternative. He knew too much. Somewhere along that road, when the night was darkest, I knew I had to kill the stranger.
Yes, the mysterious stranger seems to know a great deal. Is it possible he knows even more than Gordon suspects about his plan for...
Murder at midnight.
Now here is Gordon Ormsby to continue our story.
I knew what I was looking for. A lonely stretch of road with no sign of life. At last the headlights found it. A valley with trees growing down to the edge of the road. The stranger seemed asleep, but he stirred as I jammed on the brakes.
What's wrong, Gordon?
Must have a flat. The wheel feels funny. Would you mind having a look?
That would be very unwise for me.
Why?
You have a gun in your pocket. I would make a perfect target out in the headlights.
Well, since you're so suspicious. Here. Take it.
You amuse me, Gordon. However,
how do they look?
all right on this side.
I'm sure it's one of the front tires.
I'll see the other side.
Got him. I got him. He was standing squarely in front of the radiator when I got him. Just to make sure, I backed the car over his body. I dragged him across the ditch and into the woods. I dug a shallow grave with a tire iron, hacking in among the roots and the rocks. And then I covered him over. I got back into the car. I needed a drink. And when I came to a juke joint along the highway, I stopped.
All right. What's yours, mister?
Scotch, straight.
You been driving hard, mister?
Why?
You look all in.
Give me another shot. No, wait. Look, I'll buy the bottle.
I don't always want to sell. You know scotch is hard to get around here.
I'll pay for it. I took the bottle over to a booth and began putting it away. I felt better. Warm inside. It was going to be all right after all. The stranger was dead, and they'd never find his body. I was in the clear with nothing to worry about.
Help a poor blind man. Help a blind man.
There was something about that blind man's stick that got on my nerves. He came up to my table.
Help the old blind man, please.
Get away from here.
Please, sir, if you'd be so kind.
Will you get away?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I don't want any favors from anyone.
I said beat it.
I'm going, but you shouldn't have done that.
What's going on here? What's the idea of shoving Nettie?
He was annoying me. Then I saw him. He had the blind man by the elbow and was leading him toward the door. The stranger.
What's the matter with you, mister? What are you staring at?
There. Don't you see him?
Oh, blind Ned? Well, sure.
No. The man with him, opening the door.
There's nobody with him. Blind Ned don't need nobody. He's been going in and out of here by himself for years.
But it was he. I knew it was. I'd killed him, buried him, and... Well, was he dead or wasn't he? I had to know. I drove back up the road. There were the trees and the broken weeds in the ditch through which I'd dragged the body. I walked carefully among the leaves, searching for the grave.
Hello there.
What?
What you doing?
Oh, who are you?
State trooper. Saw your car parked on the road, followed you in.
Well, I'm looking for my watch. I lost it here this afternoon at a picnic. I didn't realize it until I got home, so of course...
Sure, I'll help you.
Oh, no, please don't bother.
No bother, I got a flashlight here.
Well, it's awfully nice of you, but I don't think...
Hey, what's this?
Huh? Where?
Ground's all scraped up into a... Looks like a grave.
Well, what would a grave be doing here?
That's what I'd like to know. Give me a hand, will you? Fresh dirt and rocks digs easy.
Why...
What's the matter? Scared?
Oh, no. It's
just down to the bottom anyhow. Oh. Well, I'll be...
What is it?
It's a grave, all right. But if there was ever a body in it, it's gone now.
I had only one idea after that. To get away. To get away as far away as possible. I drove like a wild man the rest of the night and all next day, stopping only for gas. Finally, I just couldn't drive any farther. I stopped at a small hotel, went up to the desk to register.
Sign here, please.
I'm driving across country, and I've got to start first thing in the morning.
Certainly, Mr.
Ormsby.
Ormsby. What time would you like to be called?
At daylight. And another thing, I don't want to be disturbed under any circumstances.
Yes,
that's important. No matter who wants to see me, on what excuse, I don't want to be disturbed.
I understand, Mr. Ormsby. Now, if you follow the porter...
The elevator doors were just closing when I saw him. He'd come in from the street and was walking across the lobby to the desk. I reached my room, dismissed the bellhop, and locked the door. With a shaking hand, I picked up the telephone.
Yes, clerk?
This is Mr. Ormsby. I thought I recognized a friend of mine in the lobby. A man about the same height and build as myself, dressed in a gray suit.
I'm afraid...
Well, he came in right after me. I haven't seen him in some time, and I've forgotten his name. Would you mind looking in the register and telling me what it is?
Just a minute now, look. Here we are. Your signature, Mr. Ormsby, and then...
Yes?
I'm sorry, sir. There is something, but the name's blotted. I can't make it out.
I knew now there was no escape. I took the money from my billfold and piled it on the table. I examined my revolver to make sure it was loaded. And then I sat and waited. A few minutes before midnight, the knock came. Come in.
Hello. You act as if you were expecting me.
I was. The only thing I'm not sure about is what you want. Or rather, how much.
You should know.
All the cash I've got's on the table. Nearly $500.
Ellen left you a good deal more than that.
All right, I'll write you out a check. Name the amount.
Everything you possess.
What? You're crazy. Do you honestly think, after the risks I took, the risks I'm still taking, I'd give everything away to a cheap blackmailer?
Murder is an expensive hobby, Gordon.
Well, not that expensive. If you want to be reasonable, say $50,000.
I'm afraid there's no compromise. And I'm not just talking about money.
Listen, this is your last chance. 50,000 or...
Or what, Gordon?
Or you don't leave this room alive.
You tried to kill me once before. Remember?
I lost my head. The car only stunned you, and I didn't make sure that you were dead. It'll be different this time.
It's always going to be different, isn't it, Gordon? When you disposed of Ellen, you were going to lead such a rich, beautiful life. Mm-hmm. But what happened to it? Your music went. You couldn't play.
Shut up.
And then your heart went. You struck out at an old blind man.
Listen, you.
There isn't very much left now, except your mind. And that's starting to go, too. Sometimes you see me, sometimes you don't.
I see you now. Large as life. But do you see this?
That gun won't do you any good. Besides, you're pointing it the wrong way.
I'm pointing it right between your eyes.
That's what I mean.
Well, you... He was gone. Yes, gone. Nowhere in the room. Then I heard the rapping at the door. In a daze, mechanically, I opened it.
Anything wrong, mister?
What? Who are you?
The house detective. I thought I'd...
Oh, you must have seen him. He must have run past you in the corridor.
Who?
The stranger, the man who was in my room.
Why did... Hey, be careful of that gun.
Well, I had to shoot him. He was threatening me. He was standing over there when I let him have it.
Oh, yeah?
What did he look like?
He's about my height and build, wearing a gray suit.
Like the one you're wearing?
Hmm? Oh, yes.
I thought so. Look.
At what?
The mirror. You shot at your own reflection.
You mean...
Now do you know who I am, Gordon?
There, didn't you hear him?
Hear what? What are you talking about?
No. No, you wouldn't hear. Only I would. And now I do know who and what he is. I know why I couldn't escape him. Here, take this gun. I want to give myself up.
Give yourself up?
My name is Gordon Ormsby. I killed my wife. I poisoned her. I made it look like suicide, and there never was any trial.
Oh, I get it.
It
Sure,
was a perfect
sure.
crime. At least I thought it was a perfect crime until he came into the picture.
Now, don't you worry about it one bit, Mr. Ormsby. You just
Wait a
come
minute.
along with
Wait a
me.
minute. You think I'm making it up. That I'm crazy, don't you?
No,
You do
no.
think so. But it's true. Every word of it.
Sure, I got a good friend who's a doctor. You tell him...
Doctor. No. No, he won't believe me either. Nobody will believe me. They'll all think that I'm mad. Oh, don't you see? That's why I have to give myself up. Because that's the only way I can get away from him. If you hang me.
But if you don't...
They won't, Gordon. They'll put you away. And wherever you go, I'll be there, too. Remember that? Wherever you go.
Taking him firmly by the arm, the detective leads the struggling Gordon out into the corridor. A corridor that grows darker and darker until it is completely black. Somewhere in that blackness, a voice is whispering, and it continues to whisper until it is drowned by a clock striking 12 for
Murder at midnight.
Remember to be with us again when death whispers softly in the night and the clocks strike 12 for
Murder at midnight. The part of Gordon Ormsby was played by Barry Kroger. With music by Charles Paul, Murder at Midnight was directed by Anton M. Leader.
This I believe. My guest today is Raymond Swing, my old and close friend, who is editor of the This I Believe program. Mr. Swing, a veteran of American journalism and radio, originated the American commentary for the BBC and gave it for 11 years. For 2 years, he was chief political commentator of the Voice of America. Here now is Ray Swing.
I used to think I was especially unfortunate. I had more trouble inwardly and outwardly than others I knew. Then I spent a long time studying my troubles and their origins. I came to see that every one of my troubles arose out of something I had done myself. Nobody else was to blame for the start of any trouble. I also found that in each instance, my original mistake was not one of willful wrongdoing. It was the result of not knowing well enough what was right. That is, I had to suffer not because I was bad at the start of a trouble, but because I wasn't good enough. I say at the start of a trouble because as a trouble developed, I sometimes did do what I knew was wrong. But because I knew, the experience of wrongdoing could become part of my education in doing more right. When at last I learned what had been inadequate at the start of a trouble, that particular trouble ended, along with any wrongdoing it had engendered. So I came to believe that my failures were basically due to ignorance. I'd done the best I knew how to do, and I stopped chiding myself. But to be consistent, I had to stop chiding others too. The other fellow also was doing the best he knew how to do. When he was in trouble, I had some inkling of what he was going through. You can see this is a belief in a process that is governed by law and is beneficent. Call the process growing into truth. I believe it is what I am here to do. I have become aware that there is an inconceivable wisdom that governs all things right down to me and less than me. Because I can become more and more part of it, I see that I have in me a potential of the all-wisdom. But I also am aware that my part is infinitesimally minute. Some of my troubles come from not knowing at the right time my own importance as part of the godhood, and at the right time my own insignificance. When I work for truth, when I love and serve others and try to make them free, I am exercising my little portion of the all-wisdom. When I get obsessed with my success, or with what I am getting out of something and what others are doing to me, I am getting bigger than my size. I came to see that what I didn't like in others was also in me, which is how I was able to recognize it. So I could stop trying to change others and go to work on myself. I am the one person I can do something about and am responsible for. I also came to see that the love and freedom I want for myself are to be tested by the love and freedom I give others. I show what I value by what I give. So in my book, action is the measure of belief. If I hold a belief and do something about it, I begin to grow out of myself and into the fellowship of man and the fellowship that transcends the understanding of man. I believe that happiness and suffering are the two sides of the coin of growth into truth. I believe the process is the tragedy of creation itself, and while pain is one side, the two together are merciful, and this is the beauty that underlies all living.
That was the thoughtful statement of the beliefs of Raymond Swing, internationally known news commentator.
What's the matter? What is it?
Another case for Nick Carter, master detective.
Yes, it's another case for that most famous of all manhunters, the detective whose ability at solving crime is unequaled in the history of detective fiction, Nick Carter, master detective. Tonight's curious adventure,
The Flying Duck Murders, for Nick Carter and the Gold Thieves.
Carter, unless you think more of a large fat fee than you do of your life, I advise you to throw up the case at once.
Apparently, we don't look at this in the same light, Mr. Dalrymple. I expect danger, and I'm prepared to meet it.
I suppose you know that two other detectives have come out to this wild Montana country where the Flying Duck Mine is located trying to find the trouble. But do you know that neither of them lived to tell what they found?
How were they killed, Mr. Dalrymple?
They went crazy, Miss Bowen. Kessler, the San Francisco man, fell over a cliff, while Riley, the man from Chicago, dropped 600 feet down the main shaft of the mine.
Very interesting.
I feel quite sure that Nick won't share their fate.
May I inquire for whom you're acting, Mr. Carter?
You may. For Mr. Cecil Trenwick, an old friend of my father's and a large shareholder in the Flying Duck Mine. He said that you'd cooperate with me in every possible way.
I shall do what I can, certainly.
Good. I should like you to give me a letter to the superintendent at the mine, telling him that I'm a good workman and that you promised me a job. I shall disguise myself as a miner, using the name Dave Jarvis.
Very well. You said your name will be Dave Jarvis?
Right.
Well, that'll do what you want. Give it to Mr. Nate Crosby, the mine super. He happens to be here in town this morning. Unless you change your mind and decide to return to New York.
Thank you, Mr. Dalrymple. But I'm staying here till my work is finished. Good morning.
Goodbye.
Good morning.
Wait a minute, Patsy. I wonder if Mr. Dalrymple is...
431, operator.
Yeah.
Hello? I want to speak to Nate Crosby. Okay, I'll wait.
Crosby? He's the mine super, Nick.
Yes, things are beginning to move already.
Yes.
If I open this door a crack, we'll hear better.
Nate, this is Dalrymple. Krennic has done what he's been threatening to do for so long. He sent Nick Carter out here to investigate. Yes, Nick Carter, the one man in the world I'm afraid of. Now, you've got to market the stuff right away. You can't wait any longer now. I've given him a note to you. Give him the job he wants and then take care of him. Now, yes, if you don't, it may mean curtains for all of us. Right. So long. And that will settle your future, Mr. Nick Carter.
I very much doubt that, Mr. Dalrymple.
Thanks for the attention, Mr. Dalrymple.
but I intend to take care of my own future.
So, Mr. Dalrymple is in on the deal.
He certainly is, Scubby, up to his neck.
Well, at least we start off with one good hot prospect. What do we do now?
Get into your miner's outfit. Then take this note down to this address and give it to Nate Crosby, the mine super. Now, remember, your name's Dave Jarvis, and Crosby's to give you a job in the mill.
Okay, Nick. Then what?
Well, first and foremost, keep your eyes open. Crosby will believe you're Nick Carter, so watch out for him. He'll try to put you out of the way.
And don't forget, Scubby, the detectives from Chicago and Frisco both came to grief.
Well, it's going to be different with the guy from New York.
Now, Patsy, you wait here at the hotel where we can get in touch with you if we need you.
Sure, Nick.
All right, get going, Scubby. I'm going out to the mine right away. You wait, though, and ride up with Crosby. And watch out for him.
Right, Nick. I'll keep one eye on him and one on the mine.
Thanks for the lift, Bud.
That's okay, pal. That's the super's office right there.
Thanks. I'll be seeing you.
Yeah, you looking for someone?
You're the super of the Flying Duck mine?
No, I'm the assistant super. Clem Hendricks is the name.
Well, my name's King. I'm writing up an article about the mines of Montana for the Miners' Times of Kansas City. Any objection to me sticking around a while, looking things over?
None at all, Mr. King. Just so long as you say something good about us in your article. You want me to show you around?
No, thanks. I'll just drift around and see what I can pick up.
Well, if anyone stops here, tell them I said it was okay.
Thanks, I will. Be seeing you. Now, you find the boss of the day shift and get some information on how this place operates.
These are the nerve stamping machines, Mr. King. They crush the ore very fine, and it is sent through the battery boxes and carried over the plates.
I see.
The plates are coated with quicksilver or mercury, and the quicksilver picks up most of the gold and from the crushed ore. And this combination of quicksilver and gold we call amalgam.
And you scrape this amalgam off the plates and take it to the refinery?
Yes, Mr. King. The refinery separates the gold from the quicksilver and casts it into bars.
Very interesting. Well, thanks very much. I'll roam along and look the rest of the place over. See you later.
That's where you belong, you old hag. Down there with your flat your face in the dirt.
Just like you,
Stand back, you old Indian witch, and I'm going to finish the job right down that knife. I'll drop it between your ribs.
Never mind, drop that knife, I said.
You're the fool. Knock me down, will you? I'll show you.
Ledyard, put up that gun.
But take this bullet.
Put up the gun, I said. What are you trying to do?
Well, I was trying to make Solander behave. This fellow interfered. It made me mad.
Solander, where is she?
She's right. Well, I'll be darned. She must have run away while me and him was arguing.
So you interfered, did you, mister?
Certainly I did.
You're King, the newspaper man, aren't you?
That's right. I'm here to...
I've been looking for you. I'm Crosby, mine superintendent. I'll give you just 15 minutes to get out of this camp.
So you're Nate Crosby.
I am, and I'm the boss here. And I say get out.
All right, Crosby. I'll get out. But I'll be back. I never leave a job unfinished.
All right, pick them up. You can carry them. I know they're heavy, but they have to have a solid lead lining so we can ship bodies in them. Put them in the old powder house and shut the door when you're through.
Okay, boss. Come on, fellas. Okay. All right, get it up there.
That does it. Now we're going to have to move some of these empty powder kegs to make room for all three caskets. Jarvis, you stay here and pile them up out of the way. Rest of you get the other caskets.
Okay, boss.
All right, hop to it.
Hey, Scubby. Scubby. Is that you, Nick? Where are you?
Behind these kegs. Start piling them up. We can talk while you work.
Oh, sure, Nick. What happened, Nick? Why are you hiding in here?
Crosby ordered me to get out of camp immediately, but the assistant super suggested I hide here until he gets me a ride back to town. Seems he doesn't like Crosby any better than I do. What's with you?
Well, I got a job as crusherman on the night shift at the mill.
Hey, what are these boxes you're bringing in here?
Caskets. Crosby told the teamster the bodies of the two detectives who got killed were to be taken up and shipped to their friends.
Right. Here come the men with another box.
Get it in.
All right, well, let's
Take it easy. Okay.
Nick, there were only 2 detectives who were killed. Who do you suppose the 3rd box is for?
For you, I imagine, Scubby.
What?
Remember, they think you're Nick Carter. I'm only Mr. King, newspaper reporter.
Well, I'll certainly see that casket stays empty.
Scubby, you know where the detectives are buried?
Well, the teamster told me that Crosby knows because he and a couple of the mill hands took the bodies away.
I see.
Scubby, I've got an idea. When the men bring in the other casket, you go out with them. Then make some excuse to come back in here again. Okay, Nick, I'll fix it. Quiet now.
All right, fellas, right here. That's it. All right, that'll do it, I think. Okay.
Oh, hey, boss. I must have dropped my knife inside the powder house. Do you mind if I get it?
Do what you want, so long as you're not late for your shift at the mill.
Okay, boss. I'll be there.
All clear, Nick. They've gone. Now, what's your idea?
First, shut the door, Scubby.
Oh, sure, Nick.
Now, Scubby, I want to see what's in these caskets. Here, I've got a screwdriver and my knife.
Oh, so have I. Look, I'll help you.
Good. I'm glad they only used 4 screws to fasten these covers down. Makes it simpler.
But why do you want to see what's inside, Nick?
Got a hunch, that's all.
Yeah.
There, it's got it. You all ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's get her up. Give me a hand.
Yeah.
All right. There. Uh-huh. My hunch is right, Scubby. The caskets are not lead-lined. The extra weight is due to this scrap iron in the bottom.
Like Crosby said, they had to have lead linings so they could be shipped with the bodies in them.
These caskets figure in this game more than just as caskets, Scubby.
Well, Crosby told the teamster to have a fresh team hitched to the large wagon for him at midnight tonight.
I thought so. Scubby, he's going to take these caskets somewhere tonight, and I want to know where.
Yeah, but how are you going to find out?
I'm going with him. Hidden in this casket. I'll get in it and you put the lid back on.
Oh, but Nick, you'll smother in there with the lid down.
Scubby, you can put 4 small pieces of wood under the coffin lid before you screw it down.
Oh, but Nick, I wish you would.
Now, hurry up.
All right.
Pretty good fit. All right. Now, hurry up.
Okay, Nick. Keep your head down while I put the lid on.
Okay. There we are. Have you learned anything yet, Scubby?
Well, the only place in the mill where the gold could be stolen is the room where the battery boxes and the plates are.
Hey, have you found out how they did it?
No, not yet. I hope to learn tonight when I'm on duty in the mill.
Good, Scubby. You take care of that end, and I'll watch this end.
Yeah.
Well, here's good luck to us both. I suspect we both may need it.
How's the great Nick Carter doing tonight, Ledyard?
You mean Mr. Dave Jarvis?
Yeah.
He's doing swell. Look at him. He's taking another drink. He's been hitting the water bucket steady for the last half hour.
Is the loco working?
I'll say. The bees are in his bonnet already. A famous Nick Carter will go the way the other 2 did.
Hey, what are you fellas doing dancing around like that? You can't fool me. There are a lot of billy goats. Oh, I'm thirsty. I gotta get me a drink.
Keep your eye on him. If he starts fighting, lay him out with a crowbar. Don't take any chances.
Okay.
Say what I need to my
Did you see that? He's heading for the cliffs, just like the others. Solander's mixture hasn't failed yet.
What's next, Crosby?
Ledyard, get my team from the stable at midnight tonight and meet me at the old powder house. Now we can put Nick Carter's name on the 3rd casket.
That's the last box, boss.
All right, Ledyard. You sit on the top box.
I know that, boys. That's Crosby. I'd like to see his face if he knew I was in this casket.
What did you take such wild broncos for, Super?
They're the only fresh team in the stable. They got a hard run tonight over rough country, where no truck could possibly go. All right, Sam. Let them go and then climb up here with me.
Here they go. Watch them. Okay.
Ouch! Oh! This
Loco has done for Carter, we can bring this business to a successful finish.
I hope we're not going far at this rate.
You mean we're going to quit?
We sure are. We'll market the stuff and make a clean getaway.
This is the roughest ride I've ever had.
Hey, you're going to market the stuff.
Leave that to me. I'll see that each of you gets it.
Hey, stop them, boys! Stop them! Hold them in!
They're running away. One of the reins is broken.
Wait. I didn't count on this.
They're going to smash. Jump for your lives.
We got off just in time, boss. Yeah. Hey, look at that casket, Crosby. The one with the lid torn off.
Huh? Oh, that's the infernal reporter I ordered to get out of camp this afternoon.
What was he doing in that casket?
Never mind that now. Get him while he's only half conscious.
Come on, Sam. Now you...
Good work, boys. That fixes Mr. Reporter. Tie his hands and feet with that rope.
Okay, boy. He won't fight no more for a while now. Hey, look, Super. Here's a pair of handcuffs in his pocket and a couple of guns.
Hey, what kind of reporter are you? Going around with handcuffs and guns in your pocket.
You have to draw your own conclusions, Crosby.
I've drawn them already. You're here to help Nick Carter. But by this time, Carter's where neither you nor anyone else is going to help him. He's loco. Plumb loco.
Now, you never can be sure about Carter, Crosby.
I can this time. And I can be sure of you, too. All right, put him back in the casket, boys. Put the cover on. Nail it down if you can't find the screws. Here's some nails.
Come on, you. In you go.
I got out the last time I was in here, Crosby.
But you won't get out this time. Get the lid on, boys. That does it. That's swell. That's enough. He can't do anything with his hands tied. Lydiard, you and Sam get the shovels that were in the wagon and dig a nice, deep hole. We'll bury our reporter friend with our blessing.
Hey, who are you?
You get 'em senses now. You see, you hear, you know what me say.
Yeah, I know.
Good. You eat better now.
Who are you?
Me, Zolander. You save Zolander life. Zolander, your friend. You drink this. You feel eat better. Quick.
Thanks. No. Hey, tell me, how'd I get here?
Just before sun come up, me chase crazy man through woods. Then me hear gun shoot. See you run. You come, fall down by Zolander, hurt in head. So me bring you here, Zolander hut.
Well, certainly glad you were around when I passed out.
Crosby, you enemy?
Certainly is now. You say you were chasing a crazy man?
Him drink loco, like two other men come before.
I wonder if that could have been Scubby. Crosby said he was loco. Zolander, what did you want to find him for?
Me want save him life. Give medicine. Make him well.
But why did you want to save him?
Crosby give him loco, this man. Zolander hate Crosby. Want save man. Crosby want kill.
Zolander, listen. I think this crazy... No, Scubby! No, get that knife, Scubby! No, Scubby, no! Get that knife! No! I hate to have to see you, but it's the quickest way, so... No! Oh, there. Quick, Zolander. Get me some rope. I'll tie his hands and feet while he's unconscious. Ah, poor Scubby. Looks as if he'd been through the war.
You rope, you tie.
Thanks. Now.
Me get medicine. Make him all better from loco.
Thanks, Scubby. That should hold you now.
Here, medicine. Make him well.
There.
Give him drink.
Thanks. All right, Scubby, old boy. Come on, I'll drink it. Come on, drink it.
No.
Come on.
No, devils and blood.
Come on now. Come on. There you are. There. Come on. That's it. There, now. Keep it off.
Now, him sleep little while. Be all right when him wake up.
That poor guy.
I'll untie your arms anyway. Take this coat off you, and you'll be more comfortable. Hey, what's this? A long coil of wire with a lot of metal discs attached to it. What? That's the answer. Of course. The mystery of the Flying Duck Mine is a mystery no longer. Well, Scubby? Feeling better now that you've had some sleep?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. Why?
You don't remember what happened to you yesterday morning?
Well, the last thing I recall is going to the water bucket and taking a long drink. Seemed as if the more I drank, the more I wanted.
Well, that water bucket was loaded with loco weed juice.
What?
Surprised you didn't notice it.
Oh, I'm surprised at myself now. But both the amalgamators, even Crosby himself, kept drinking. Or pretending to from that same bucket. Well, they certainly had me fooled.
Hey, look, Scubby. Do you remember seeing these discs strung on this coil of wire?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I recall seeing one of the amalgamators have it last night. Why, did I bring it here?
You did. And it breaks the case wide open.
Well, good for me, even if I didn't know it. Hey, tell me, Nick, what are those discs used for?
Here, I'll show you.
Yeah.
Now watch. Now, you see? This stuff I'm scraping off is amalgam, a mixture of quicksilver and gold. The men who worked in the battery boxes in the mill, the amalgamators, hung these discs and a lot more like them in the battery boxes, right where they catch the best of the gold before it flowed over the other plates. They took out over half the gold that flowed into the boxes this way.
So that's where all those thousands of dollars worth of gold disappeared to.
Yes, Scubby. A very clever method of stealing the gold. Now, if we could only find out what Crosby and his gang do with the amalgam after they scrape it off their discs.
You want catch, Crosby?
I'll say we do if we... Hey, Nick, who is she?
Oh, that's Zolanda. She saved my life. Oh, and yours, too, incidentally.
Saved my life? How?
Well, that loco weed juice you drank is fatal. Well, Zolanda gave you an antidote for it.
Well, gosh, thanks, Zolanda. Gee, I'm sure much obliged.
Crosby try kill me. Me fix him. Zolanda know all about Crosby. You come with me.
Well, where are you taking us?
Crosby got cave inside mountain where he hide stuff. Come, me show you.
So this is where Crosby hides out, huh?
Yeah. Too bad there's no one here now.
But they've been here today. Look there, Scubby.
Well, that looks like the scrap iron we took out of the casket in the old powder house before you hid in it.
Right, Scubby. And this scrap iron was in the other two caskets.
So they brought them up here. I wonder why.
There's the answer. Over there in that corner. And the Sayers furnace. And it's still warm, Scubby.
Then we must have scared them off when we came up.
Wait. Let me take the cover off this retort. There.
Nick, is that gold in there?
That's just what it is. Part of the gold stolen from the mine. This is where the gang refined the amalgam they scraped off their discs. It's much easier to handle gold this way because it weighs so much less. Now, since we know from what Dalrymple said that they never disposed of any of the stolen gold, they must have 800 or 900 pounds of it by now.
Hey, maybe they've got it hidden around here somewhere.
They did have, Scubby. But not now.
Well, what makes you think so, Nick?
Here. Take a look outside there. They've been digging there very recently.
Oh, but of course, Nick, they had to dig up the bodies of the two detectives to ship them back home.
No, Scubby. The way it looks to me is this. After I got away from them last night, Crosby and his men took up the casket they tried to bury me in and
tried to bury you in? Hey, you didn't tell me about that.
Later, Scubby. Right now I'm interested in what happened here. They brought the 3 caskets up here early this morning, loaded them up.
How could they load 3 of them? They only had 2 bodies.
No, Scubby. 3 caskets were loaded up. Don't you understand yet?
No, Nick, I'm afraid I don't. How could they be
Scubby,
loading...
How good are you at riding a horse?
Riding a horse?
Yeah.
Well, I used to ride years ago. Why?
Good. Zolanda, can you get us a couple of good fast horses right away?
For you, Nick, get 2 good horses quick.
Good. Come on, Scubby. Let's get the horses and ride to the railroad station before the eastbound train gets in.
But, Nick, what's all the hurry?
Well, unless I'm wrong, Scubby. These 3 caskets are going east on the next train. We've got to get there in time to stop them.
Oh, even Crosby himself would recognize us, these Indian costumes Zolanda let us.
Well, we may need to be disguised before we get through.
Hey,
You didn't finish telling me how you got away from Crosby and his gang when they started to bury you alive. What did happen, Nick?
Well, they dug the hole, and they put the casket down in it. I tried to pry the lid loose, but my hands were tied behind me. I worked on them, and just as they started throwing the dirt back on top of the casket, I finally got my hands free and untied my feet. Just then, I heard shooting and some female screaming.
A female? Out there in the wilds?
Yeah, it was Zolanda, I found out later. Well, I managed to loosen the cover and push it up enough to see that Crosby and the men were watching something across the clearing. So I seized my chance and climbed carefully out of the hole on the opposite side. I started to run, but they saw me and started shooting. Fortunately, though, they were bad shots, and I was almost free when a bullet grazed my head. It must have stunned me, because I remember nothing more till I woke up in Zolanda's hut this morning.
Well, do you know what it was that distracted the men's attention?
Well, Zolanda told me that you were chasing her, trying to shoot her. She was screaming. You chased her around the other side of the clearing, and then went off after something else. It was just about then that you saw me running toward her. When Crosby saw me drop, he gave up the chase. Zolanda waited until they went back and then dragged me to her hut.
Gosh, Nick, we owe a lot to Zolanda.
Right, Scubby. And the best way we can pay that debt is to see that Crosby and his murdering pals end up where they belong, behind bars or in the electric chair.
You understand, Patsy?
Of course, Nick. You want the police chief to meet you at the station in 10 minutes, and you want Mr. Dalrymple and the president and treasurer of the mine to meet you in the chief's office in an hour.
That's right. Now be sure you get them all.
Don't worry, I'll take care of it.
These are the ones, Nick. These three here on the baggage truck.
Did you notice the names on them, Scubby?
Yeah. Joe Briley, Phil Kessler. Oh, and look, Nick Carter.
I'd rather be out here dressed as an Indian than in there dressed as a corpse.
One side now, rain in the face. We got to get these caskets into the baggage car.
Just a minute. You see this badge? Special agent.
So what? What do you want me to do?
Just leave these caskets in the baggage truck for now.
But they're supposed to go on
They're
this...
staying here, quiet.
Hey, look here, baggage master. Get these boxes on the train and be quick about it.
No be in hurry, mister.
Why, you Indian meddler, what the deuce do you...
You look behind you.
What do you mean?
Take your hat off, Scubby.
Sure, Nick. There you are, Mr. Crosby.
Dave Jarvis.
Why, you... Don't try to start anything, Crosby. I've got my gun on.
Hey, where are you getting these boxes on?
Hurry, men, officer. These three right here.
Get your hands up, all of you, and fast.
Hey,
What
you
the devil
can't
you
do that. What is it?
Quiet, all of you. You three men are under arrest. Charged with robbing the Flying Duck mine and with the murder of Detectives Riley and Kessler.
They're all here, Nick.
Thanks, Betsy. Now, Mr. Dalrymple, I asked you and the officials at the Flying Duck Mine to meet me here in the office of the chief of police because I want to show you what's in the caskets that Crosby was taking back east with him. Now, the first casket is supposed to contain the body of Phil Kessler. All right, Scubby, open it.
Sure, Nick.
Gold. Gold bullion.
Yes, Chief. In these three caskets, you'll find the entire amount of gold stolen from the mine. Stolen by Dalrymple, the mine manager, Crosby, the mine super, and four of the workmen who worked in the amalgam room of the mill. They stole the amalgam, refined it in their own furnace, and buried it in two holes in the ground, which were supposed to be the graves of the two dead detectives.
Mr. Carter, that much gold would make the caskets pretty heavy. Wouldn't that extra weight be noticed?
No, Chief. Because when you ship a body by train, the casket has to be lead-lined and hermetically sealed. That means it weighs much more than the usual casket. Crosby, Ledyard, and Perkins were each going to take one of the caskets east with them as a personal baggage, which would prevent anybody from examining them too closely. One of the cleverest schemes I've seen in a long time.
But it wasn't clever enough. Not with Nick on the job. You have to get up early in the morning to beat Nick.
This was another strange experience of Nick Carter, master detective, called The Flying Duck Murders or Nick Carter and the Gold Thieves. Another of the curious adventures of Nick Carter, which are brought to you regularly at the same time by WOR Mutual. And now, Nick, we want to hear a little about next week's mystery.
Well, it all started when we heard that ship screaming.
Now, Nick, you know as well as I do that a ship doesn't scream.
Well, this one did. I was there and I heard her screaming myself. It was one of the most dreadful sounds I've ever listened to.
Yes, but that was after the 7th murder.
7 murders?
Mm-hmm.
Did you find out who was doing that wholesale slaughter?
Well, of course he did. But not before 2 other construction workers were killed.
Yes, there were 9 murders in all. Murders of the most fiendish sort. Those are just a few of the things we'll explain to you next week.
So long, folks.
So long. And so long to you, Nick and Patsy. In the strange adventure you've just heard, Nick Carter was impersonated by Lon Clark, Patsy by Helen Choate, and Scubby by John Kane. Original music was played by Lew White. The program was written and directed by Jock McGregor. Next week at the same time, listen to another curious experience of Nick Carter entitled
The Screaming Ship, or Nick Carter and the Flying Fits.
This story is a copyrighted feature of Street and Smith Publications, Incorporated. The Return of Nick Carter is produced in the studios of WOR and is broadcast over most of these stations every Monday evening at 9:30 Eastern Wartime. This is Mutual.
This I believe. Rebecca West, one of the most distinguished women writers of our time, was born in County Kerry, Ireland. A writer of great versatility, Miss West is a political commentator, literary critic, novelist, and poet. She is a vivacious, sensitive woman with an avid eye for human experience. She now lives with her husband on their dairy farm in Buckinghamshire, England. Hear now her creed.
I believe in liberty. I feel it necessary for the health of the world that every man shall be able to say and do what he wishes and what is within his power. For each human being has a unique contribution to make towards our understanding of life, because every man is himself unique. His physical and his mental make-up is unique, and his circumstances are unique. So he must be able to tell us something which could not be learnt from any other source. I wish I believed this only when I'm writing about politics, but I believe it also in my capacity as a woman with a family and friends. I don't find it makes life easy, but it's not just a matter of giving everybody their head. It happens that if you let a man say and do what he likes, there comes a point when he wants to say or do something which interferes with the liberty of someone else to say or do what he likes. Therefore it follows that I see, as the main problem of my life, the balancing of competitive freedoms. This involves a series of very delicate calculations, and you can never stop making them. This principle has to be applied in personal relations, and everybody knows that the ready reckoner to use there is love, but it takes a lot of real talent to use love effectively. The principle has to be applied in social relations also, and there the ready reckoner is the rule of law, as political scientists call it. A sense of mutual obligations that have to be honored, and a legal system which can be trusted to step in when that sense fails. When I was young, I understood neither the difficulty of love nor the importance of law. I grew up in a world of rebellion, and I was a rebel. I thought human beings were naturally good, and that their personal relations were bound to work out well, and that the law was a clumsy machine dealing harshly with people who would cease to offend as soon as we got rid of property. And we were all quite sure that human nature would soon be perfect. Yes, I can remember that when I was something like 11 years old, a visitor to my mother's home who had been in Russia described how she'd one day been caught in the middle of a pogrom and had seen the Cossacks knouting the Jews in the street. And I remember listening and thinking, now I mustn't forget this. People will be interested to hear of this when I'm old, because, of course, all this sort of thing will have died out long before. You can imagine what a shock it's been to me and my generation, now that that sort of thing has become common form in many parts of the world. And such a pogrom, though horrible indeed, seems a small thing compared to the horrors millions have suffered today. horrors which were inflicted by human beings like me. I realize now that what's good in this earth does not happen as a matter of course. It has to be created and maintained by the effort of love and by submission to the rule of law. But how are we to manage to love being so given to cruelty? How do we preserve the law from being corrupted by our corruption since it's a human institution? As I grow older, I find more and more as a matter of actual experience that there is a God. And I know that religion offers a technique for getting in touch with him, but I find that technique very difficult. I hope I'm working a way to the truth through my writing, but I also know that I must write with the thought of God in my mind for it to have any value. It's not easy, indeed it's much more difficult than being a rebel, but I remind myself that if I wanted life to be easy, I should have got born on a different universe.
That was Rebecca West, English woman of letters, whose writings and philosophy are characterized by their wit and forthrightness.
What'll you have? Pabst Blue Ribbon, Pabst Blue Ribbon beer.
And now, Pabst Blue Ribbon presents transcribed Frank Lovejoy in
Night Beat.
Hi, this is Randy Stone. I cover the night beat for the Chicago Star. You know, it's a funny thing, a night off. When they give you a whole night not to care whether the presses turn or not, you're like an old horse that's saddle broke. You don't know any direction but the way back to the barn. A great yawning city, the greenest pasture in the world, and I didn't know where to start. What did people do when they weren't working? It was habit, I guess. It took me to Rush Street with its little nightclubs and cabarets. People always seemed to have fun on Rush Street. And besides, you could feel comfortable sitting alone at a bar in the hazy gloom.
Randy, it's good to see you. What'll it be?
Well, I'll leave it up to you, Gus. Make it something festive.
What's up? You win the Pulitzer Prize?
Oh, no, it's my night off.
Oh, night off, huh?
Yeah.
Well, what are you doing out alone? You ought to get yourself a date. A night off is no good without a girl.
Well, you know how many girls sit by the telephone waiting for a guy that's half owl and half newspaper man to call? The statistics would startle you.
Well, just the same, it seems to me you ought to have some special girl, a nice fella like you.
Why, Gus.
No, I mean it. Now look at me. I'm no great shakes. I've been tending bar all my life. And that ain't no occupational congenial connubial bliss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But come September, I've been married 10 years.
Oh, that's good. That's great. I envy you.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. That's my point. I'm just an ordinary guy, see, and I got a girl. Now, it seems to me that a guy like you in an exciting job that takes him around where he meets a lot of dolls, you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I do, and I wish I didn't.
Now, in my business, I meet all kinds. Good Joes, bums, class. You get so you can tell who fits with who.
Yeah, well, that figures.
Well, that's exactly what I said to myself when you walk in. Randy and her. It figures. The same type. Intelligent, mature. And she's good looking.
Look, Gus, it's a little early in the evening to get befuddled, and I'm afraid I don't follow you. Who's good looking?
Why, that girl down there at the end of the bar, sitting all by herself.
Oh, that brunette in the white dress?
Yeah. What do you think? You like to take her out tonight?
Well, I could get used to the idea. You know her?
Well, no, I don't know, but I...
Oh, well, then why bring it up?
Oh, now, Randy, don't get sore. I was only thinking of you.
Well, then mix me a drink. That's all I came in for.
Oh, okay, Randy, you bet. But a drink ain't the answer, no, sir. Can't nothing make a man feel high like when a woman looks at him. In a special way. You know what I mean?
It was a pleasing thought and a disturbing one. As Gus worked his magic alchemy back at the bar, I worked on the idea, and from time to time I looked at her in the mirror. She was studying her drink pensively, kind of sad, turning the glass round and round in her hand as though she had something deep on her mind. I was openly staring at her when her eyes met mine in the mirror. Her face became suddenly animated, and she smiled at me.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm superstitious about drinking alone.
Oh, what a coincidence. So am I.
Life's full of coincidences.
Well, believe me, I'm all for it.
Well, mud in your eye?
To you.
No. Tonight it's to you. Just to you. You're wondering about me, aren't you?
How do you mean?
When a girl sits alone at a bar, men get all kinds of impulses about her. Some want to protect her. Well, what did you think when I smiled at you in the mirror?
Well, I guess you summed it up.
You're lonesome, aren't you?
Well...
Lots of people are lonely. Do you mind if I call you John?
Well, it's a good plain American name, but my name happens to be Randy.
I'll call you John. You call me Mary.
Mary, Smith?
How did you know?
Instinct.
What?
Well, what?
You haven't asked me why I'm alone tonight.
Well, I figured that was your own business.
I was stood up. I had a date, but he didn't come.
Well, he should have his head examined.
That was the right line, John.
Well, I try, Mary, but I don't get much practice.
You mean you don't look at other girls?
Well, just window shopping.
Well, how about all those girls that come in the bank? And what about the girls who work in the bank?
The bank? You wouldn't have me mixed up with some other fellow, would you?
Now, how could I ever mix you up with anybody?
Yeah.
Buy me another drink, John?
Oh, yeah, sure. Gus, refills here. Better make mine a double. This is a friendly town, Chicago. You find them everywhere, these little dolls. But Mary Smith, or whatever her name was, didn't fit into the pattern. She said all the right words, but there was something elusive about her. If I could use a word that's been out of use for a long time, she was a lady. She looked younger than I'd first thought. She was no more than 25. There were no rings on her fingers, and, well, I wasn't going anyplace anyway. Gus put the refills in front of us. I picked mine up, raised it, and turned toward her. But she'd suddenly gone cold on me. She was tense, and she was staring into the mirror as though she'd forgotten that I was there. I followed her gaze. There wasn't anybody else at the bar except a man with red hair. He sat at the other end of the bar nursing a beer, and he wasn't paying any attention to us.
Let's go.
Thought you wanted another drink.
I don't want to stay here anymore. I want to go.
Oh, sure, but I got to pay the tab first.
Hurry, I'll wait outside for you.
Gus, check.
Hey, yeah, Randy. Hey, that'll be $3.
Okay.
Hey, come on down here. I want to talk to you.
Gus, I'm in a hurry.
Randy, listen, I think maybe I gave you a bump steer.
What are you talking about?
Well, the minute you sat down with her, a guy starts asking all kinds of questions about you. Who you are, where you come from, what's your racket.
A guy? What guy?
Well, that guy over there, the guy that's... Oh, that's funny. He was there just a minute ago. Didn't you see him? At the end of the bar. A guy with red hair.
I paid Gus, and I hurried out. When I got to the sidewalk, she wasn't in sight. I felt let down, disappointed. Well, that's how it goes. You figure you got a winning ticket, and you get left at the post. I was about to go back in and continue the fat chewing with Gus when a cab pulled up, and she was in it. I thought you'd run out on me.
No, why would I do that? I thought getting a cab would save time.
Save time for what?
Why, we've got a lot of places to go. All right, driver.
Well, I'm probably the biggest jerk in Chicago for asking a question at a time like this, but... your date that didn't show up, would he wear red hair?
What?
Let's get it.
I love riding in a taxi, don't you?
Mm-hmm. I'd like to know where I'm going, though.
I never can remember. What do you call it when you go in and out of bars?
Pub crawling?
That's it. We're going pub crawling.
For a girl who wasn't familiar with the expression, she was very expert at finding upholstered sewers, which was strange because once we got in them, she lost interest and wanted to leave. She ordered drinks, but she only sipped them. She seemed to have a compulsion to be on the move.
Come on, let's go.
Well, what's the next stop?
Why, Riverview, of course.
Riverview? That must be a new joint. I haven't heard of it.
No, Riverview Park.
What, the amusement park?
You know, roller coasters, cotton candy, the whip.
What are you trying to do, see Chicago and die?
Oh, I'm so glad you came into the bar tonight. I'm glad you looked into the mirror.
So we went to Riverview Park. We ate popcorn and hot dogs. The bloated faker with a whiskey breath guessed our weight and fell short of my age by 6 years. And I gave him an extra $1. We went on the whip and the roller coaster and the tunnel of love. She sat very close to me in the boat. Yes, I felt tempted to kiss her as we went through the dark, dank tunnel, but the boats were full of teenagers necking, and, it didn't seem the place. But as we came out into the lighted park...
Okay, everybody out.
I'm surprised at you, John.
Huh? What do you mean?
You didn't kiss me. Didn't you want to?
Bud, 2 more tickets here. We're going through again. As we came out into the lighted park for a second time, I was looking at her, smugly waiting for her reaction.
All right, everybody out. Stay the boat. Stay the boat.
Want to go through again?
No.
All right, this way, folks. Find your luck.
Careful. Here, let me help you.
I can get out by myself.
Well, what else? Something to eat? Another ride? Find me a very obliging fellow.
I don't want to do anything. Please, just leave me alone.
Oh, look, I don't like to complain, but I kissed you back there. When you came out, you don't even look at me. What's the matter with me? I read all the ads.
What?
You know, this isn't good for my ego, talking to myself.
All right, take the chance. 3 shots for quarter. Everybody's a winner. Get the little lady a baby doll. Shoot the birdies back. Get the little lady a baby doll.
Get me a doll.
3 shots for quarter. That's quarter.
The baby doll in the blanket. That's the one I want.
How much are the dolls?
Well, you can't buy 'em. You got to win 'em. 3 shots for quarter. Knock the birdies down. Knock 'em all down. You win a baby doll. Here you are, Mac. Rifles all loaded. Show what a good shot you are for a quota.
Okay. I never had much luck with these things.
Oh, and it's too bad you missed. Try again. Here you are. It's all loaded.
As I picked up the rifle again and looked down the sight at the moving birds, I was conscious of a terrible tension in Mary. But my concentration was on pulling the trigger.
Don't. Oh, please don't. Don't. Oh, don't.
I turned around and she was screaming hysterically, running blindly down the midway. Mary! I dropped the gun on the counter, but before I could take after her, a man shoved a doll into my hand.
Your doll, Stone.
Thank you. Mary! Excuse me. Please let me through, will you? I'm sorry. Mary! What's the matter?
Oh, don't. Please don't shoot the gun. Don't shoot the gun. The gun.
Hey, snap out of it, Mary. Stop it. Mary, you wanted a doll? Well, here it is.
What? Oh, you got it. The one I wanted in the blue blanket. You won the doll for me.
Won it? No. No, I hadn't won it. I'd missed every shot, yet the man had handed me the doll. Not the man back of the counter, but another man. He handed me the doll and he called me by name. A man I'd seen once before tonight. A man who'd asked Gus about me. The man with the red hair.
We return in just a moment to Night Beat, starring Frank Lovejoy as Randy Stone. Here's a summertime snapshot of pure eating enjoyment, the good old American way. A nice, tender, juicy hot dog smack in the middle of a fresh toasted roll. And right next to it, ready to refresh and quench your thirst, a tall, cool, foaming glass of smooth, delicious Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. Just put yourself in that picture. Mm-hmm. You'll find Pabst Blue Ribbon has a taste all its own, a more satisfying taste, a more sociable taste no other beer can match. No wonder it makes good foods like these taste better. Listen.
Here's a list of foods to choose for picnics, parties, barbecues.
Campbell's Pork and Beans.
Armour's Treat.
Borden's Cheese.
Ritz Crackers.
With Frankfurters. And, of course, Pabst Blue Ribbon.
You'll find that food tastes better by far if you serve them with foaming PBR.
What'll you have?
Pabst Blue Ribbon.
What'll you have?
Pabst Blue Ribbon.
What'll you have?
Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Pabst Blue Ribbon beer.
Smoother flavor. Finer beer, that million savor. Taste that smoother flavor.
Pabst Blue Ribbon beer.
Tomorrow, for sure, pick up several convenient Pabst Blue Ribbon Handy 6 cartons, packed with 6 space-saving cans. Or get the money-saving case of 24. Any way you buy it, it's the same famous Pabst Blue Ribbon flavor. Act 2 of Night Beat will continue after a brief pause for station identification. And now, back to Night Beat and Randy Stone.
The night had a touch of madness to it. She'd wanted to be called Mary, and she'd called me John. I'd gone along with it. I thought it was just her way of lending dignity to a pickup. But now her hysteria and the man with the red hair shoving the doll into my hands and then disappearing, this had changed the whole picture. We'd walked away from the concessions to the edge of the park where it was quieter. All of her attention was now focused on the doll.
I'll always keep it. Always.
You don't have to woo me anymore.
What do you mean, John?
And you can drop the John stuff. My name is Randy Stone. Look, I've gone along with this make-believe because I thought I wanted to. I was in the mood for it. I thought when you smiled at me in the mirror, you just wanted to have some laughs.
I did. Oh, I did.
What about the man with the red hair?
I don't want to talk about it.
Would he be a detective?
Who?
The man with the red hair. I suppose you're married and your husband's old-fashioned. He doesn't like you picking up strangers in bars.
How can you say such a thing to me?
Well, are you married?
No, I'm not. No. Let's not talk about it. I don't want to talk about anything tonight but you and me. Just you and me.
Well, Mary, if you're in some kind of a jam, if you're in some kind of trouble, why don't you tell me? Maybe I can help. Maybe there's something I can do.
There is. Take me dancing.
Dancing?
Uh-huh. At the pavilion. Under the stars.
Our tickets ran out with the mellow music. I left Mary on the sidelines a minute to go buy another yard of tickets, but before I could get back, the band went jitterbug. And a gang of het cats went wild, swarming against the ropes to get to the floor. And they were between Mary and me. Trying to get through them was like trying to swim upstream. By the time all the cats were on the floor, I couldn't find her. She was gone. She disappeared. I looked over every inch of the pavilion, and then I saw him, the man with the red hair. He was standing just outside one of the exits, just standing there, watching. As I started toward him, he left quickly. There was no doubt about it. This was the boy who had the answers, and by now I was in a question-asking mood. Hey, Mac, I want to talk to you.
Not now, Stone.
I felt like I'd been hit with a roller coaster. My knees folded, and I went along with the ride. The sound had changed. I felt the motion before I recognized the new sound. I was dizzy and my head hurt. It was a motor. Yes, it was a motor. I was in a car. I opened my eyes, blinked a couple of times. I was in the back seat of a taxi. Driver.
You okay now?
Stop the car, will you?
You bet, Bud, in a minute.
Stop it now.
We're almost there.
We're almost where?
Right up here in the middle of the block.
What?
Tony's. Here you are, Tony's Pizza Palace.
How did I get in this cab?
Your friend put you in. Hey, you really hung one on. You were feeling no pain, believe me.
Well, that's a matter of opinion. You say my friend put me in?
Yeah. Big guy with red hair. Said to drive you here. And see you got inside. Oh, well, you don't have to worry, buddy. Paid me. Hey, you want me to help you?
No, thank you. I've had a little too much help tonight. The cab drove away, and I stood and looked at the cheesy little pizza joint where he dropped me. The sign that badly needed paint still said Tony's Pizza Palace, although Tony had sold it a year ago. It used to be the place to go late at night if you liked sentimental Italian ballads with your pizza. Tony had been a half-baked opera singer, so he furnished entertainment, along with being chef, waiter, and mine host. Now the place belonged to a sourpuss who never came out of the kitchen except to take your order. I was curious. I went inside. Yep, she was there.
Hi.
What are you doing here?
What happened to you?
What happened to me?
I lost you. You went to get tickets, and I couldn't find you afterwards. Kid, that crowd.
Why did you come here?
Tony? Oh, I knew you'd come to Tony.
Oh, you did. You didn't have to be quite so forceful with your invitation.
Here he comes. Listen, Tony's going to sing for us.
Well, that's not Tony.
Shh, quiet.
There's no tomorrow.
There's no tomorrow.
This song meant something to this girl. And what did it mean? The man who wasn't Tony was singing it to her, and she was listening with her heart. She was looking beyond everything into some memory that was rare and special, and I felt like an eavesdropper watching. Well, would you, like him to sing something else?
Not tomorrow. Not tonight.
You want him to sing something else?
No.
Mary.
I'll be back.
No more?
No, thank you.
What's the matter? The lady didn't like it?
Well, she thought it was great. How long have you been working here?
Here? Oh, I don't work here. I sing at the Cafe Paloma down the street.
Well, then what are you doing here?
Oh, I don't know. Some fella came into the Paloma tonight and said, "Hey, you know the American words to O Solo Mio?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Good. You want to make some extra money?" I said, "Are you kidding me? With 6 mouths to feed?" He said, "Good. Go on down to Tony's. When the lady comes in the white dress, you sing to her." That's what the man said. That's what I did.
This music lover who hired you, did he have red hair?
That's right. He's a friend of yours? Oh, played a joke on you.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, he's a real funny man. Most women who've just had a good cry have swollen faces and powder streaks, but something had happened to Mary. When she came back to the table, her face shone with radiance. She stood beside the table. She didn't sit down. There was no tension in her now and no restlessness.
Let's go.
Well, it's only 3. Sit down.
No, let's walk.
Okay. You're going to think that this is corny, but let's go down to the lake and watch the sun come up, Mary.
Oh, it's not corny. But I can't.
Why not?
I've come to the end of it. I must go home now.
The end of it? The end of what?
You wouldn't understand.
Well, I might. Try me.
Let's just leave it this way.
There's so many things I don't know about you, and there's so much that I want to find out.
I know all about you. Now take me to the L.
Oh, if you want to go home, I'll get your cab.
No. I want to go home on the L.
She carried the doll in one hand, and she tucked the other in mine. Funny, I'm out every night at this hour, but I never noticed what a beautiful city it is. Even the L. I'd always thought of it as just a dirty, rattling noise in the night, and now it was a silhouette in steel. We walked up the steps to the platform, and there was nobody there but us. In the distance, I could hear it, just a vibration at first, and then a sound.
The L's coming. I'll have to say goodnight now.
But I'm going to take you home.
No.
Oh, I just can't leave you here.
Please, Randy.
Well, when am I going to see you again?
I don't know.
But you can't just... You called me Randy.
I'm glad it was you, Randy. I'm glad you were the one in the mirror.
Now, Mary, wait. She darted away from me to board the L. I started after her, but I didn't get far. The man with the red hair materialized out of the shadows and blocked me. The L roared off, taking her with it.
Sorry, Stone, it's the end of the line.
Now, wait a minute. What do you think
Go ahead. Slug me if it'll make you feel any better. Knock my head off. I've got it coming.
Now, save the sympathy. Just give me the answers.
I had to knock you out, Stone. You'd gotten separated. I had to put you back on the track. I couldn't just go up to you and say, Mary's gone to Tony's.
Well, why not? Is that too old-fashioned for you?
Would you have gone? I would have had to explain that this was her first night out in months. She's been sitting in a sanitarium staring at the wall, living in a world of fantasy.
What are you trying to hand me?
Didn't you think she acted strangely at the shooting gallery when you shot the rifle? Didn't it bother you when she called you John?
Well, you didn't act exactly normal. And there's something else that bothers me. If she's a mental case, why is she out tonight, and why did you let her go off by herself on the L?
I'm not worried about that. That's the L that will take her home. You see, Stone, the doctor said if she did everything just the way it was that other night, if she relived it, played it out, and then came home, well, she had a chance.
What other night?
Mary met a man in a bar just a year ago tonight. Here, let me read your letter.
No, never mind the letter. What man?
Well, the letter's from him.
Oh, his name is John?
Yeah, John. The letter says, my darling wife...
Wife?
My darling wife, I'd give anything to be with you on our anniversary, but I can't, so that's that. But you go out. Wear your white dress. I won't be with you in person, but I'll be sitting beside you just the same. Go to that little bar on Rush Street where you picked me up. Or was it the other way around? Smile at me in the mirror, and I'll be smiling back.
Oh, I sure can pick him. A night off, and what do I draw? A stand-in for an absent husband.
There's more to the letter.
I can do without the love and kisses, thank you.
But I think it'll interest you. It goes on about reliving a night, about pub crawling in Riverview Park and Tony.
Oh, I've taken the trip. I know the itinerary. Who are you, her keeper?
No, I'm a brother.
Oh, well, that's a nice touch. The brother goes along as chaperone to keep everything platonic. And where's this elusive husband that I understudy? Where's he locked up?
He's dead.
He's dead?
The letter was written in a foxhole in Korea. He was killed 2 days later on Heartbreak Ridge.
Oh.
Do you see now why I couldn't tell you?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, I'll see you around.
You did great, Stone. Real great.
Yeah, I know, great. Red.
Yeah?
What's your name?
Sam.
Sam what?
Don't try to find her. Give her time. She may work out of this, and then again... Look, Stone, if she ever asks about you, if she ever wants to see you...
Sure, I know. You'll look me up. Other guys and other jobs on the night off go home after it's over. Me? I've got a story to write about a guy I met on his night off and a lady who evaporated in the mist. In a city the size of Chicago, most everybody reads the newspapers, so maybe I can reach her this way. So I bat it out. I try to put into words the things the guy wanted to say but didn't. The story is finished. It isn't adequate, but it'll have to do, because after all, it is my night off. I get one last horrible thought before I turn it in. What if she reads the competition's paper? Well, I'll have to take that chance. Copy, boy.
Night Beat, starring Frank Lovejoy, is produced and directed by Warren Lewis. Tonight's transcribed story was written by John and Gwen Bagney, with music by Frank Worth. The part of Mary was played by Betty Moran. Others featured were Peter Leeds, Jan Arvin, and Tudor Owen. Frank Lovejoy appeared through the courtesy of Warner Brothers, producers of The Miracle of Our Lady of Fatima. Listen next week at this time and every week as Randy Stone searches through the city for the strange stories waiting for him in the darkness. Starting the 29th, hear your hit parade on NBC.
This I believe. Rebel Randall is known as Dear Voice on the Armed Forces radio show Jukebox USA. A model, actress, and writer of children's books, Rebel's broadcasts have aided the morale of our troops overseas. Hear now her creed.
In a comparative short journey through this thing called life, I have formed some definite opinions. First of all, I believe in God above all things. I believe in good without compromise. I believe in truth as divorced and separated from fear and confusion. I believe in a love that can encompass every living thing. I believe that perfection exists, for I have seen it in beauty. I believe in people as evidence of good. I believe in the freedom and the dignity of mankind. I believe in the evolution of this world toward the good of peace and perfection. As a child, my mother told me, you get out of life measure for measure what you give to life. There is no question of the validity of this advice for me. Life is a mirror which reflects my every thought and deed. I think it is far better to ask myself not who I am, but what I am. The full measure of success in life is the degree of peace and harmony called happiness, which I am able to attain. Happiness must be given to be received. Away from any political sense, in Europe recently I came across an isolated school of thought, Jean-Paul Sartre's, which placed existence before essence, a life to be lived completely within the realm of the physical. To my mind, essence, that is what I really am, is what I project into existence, which is life, for the good I want to get out of life. Like everybody else, I want happiness. But I've never heard of happiness maintained within the physical realm. It begins in the mind. The body is the violin case for the instrument. The instrument of happiness is the mind. I believe the mind of man is the most magnificent subject of contemplation in the universe, and what it contains is the measure of our worthiness as human beings. The mind of man, from the time he first learned to rub sticks together to produce fire, to his discovery of atomic energy, is, to me, absolute proof of man's destiny for good. The world is full of people, varying in degree of mental and physical stature, yet all people are of a basic sameness. During my travels abroad, I made a great personal discovery, that whether a person was born an Irishman, Englishman, Egyptian, Turk, or Swede, he eats, drinks, sleeps, loves, lives, and dies as a human being who, though subject to error, strives constantly for good. The great difference in people is the way in which they are educated to think. I believe that each of us is here for a very definite purpose. Though we are similar by nature, our destined purpose is as individual as we are different from another. We may contribute a little or a lot, but each of us is very important to this world. I think the success of my individual life is my own personal responsibility. I know that happiness exists for all of us. Today we are creating the world of tomorrow with our thoughts, words, and deeds, just as we are creating our own future. I believe this future will reveal to us a world so truly wonderful that we will rejoice in being even a little part of it.
That was actress and writer Rebel Randall, a native of Chicago, who found happiness through her work and brought joy to her own brothers and other servicemen in Korea through her Armed Forces radio show.
The makers of Camel Cigarettes present Dick Powell as Richard Diamond, private detective. How mild can a cigarette be?
Martha Tilton knows.
Ezio Pinza knows.
Vaughn Monroe knows.
Yes, so many stars whose voices are their fortunes know it's Camels for mildness. They choose Camels because they know that Camels get along with their throat.
Make the 30-day Camel mildness test and see how mild, how flavorful, how thoroughly enjoyable a cigarette can be.
Here transcribed is Richard Diamond, Private Detective, starring Dick Powell.
Back here behind the socks. Care for the clothesline?
I thought you were a detective.
Oh, it's been a rumor for some time.
Do you always do laundry in the office?
Only on Fridays, honey. Have a seat, Miss...
Casbary.
Well, I'll be right with you, Miss Casbary, as soon as I ring out these, as soon as I ring them out.
Go right ahead.
There. Mm-hmm. All right, Miss Casbary, what can I do for you?
It's Mr.
Well, now, what's it all about?
My husband's going to kill me.
Just frisky, or has he got a reason?
I found out he's been stealing from his partner, and when I faced him with it, he threatened me.
Has he done anything more than threaten?
Last night he went out and said he'd be gone for most of the evening. I went to bed, and about an hour later, I thought I heard somebody start upstairs. I got frightened and put pillows in my bed to make it look like I was sleeping.
Was it your husband?
I hid in my dressing room and watched, and then the door opened. It's too dark to tell, but I'm sure it was Phil. He came in and had a knife, and he jabbed the pillow several times before he realized it wasn't a real body.
Couldn't he see?
What do you mean?
Well, there's some things a guy remembers. Even if you slept in a diving suit, you'd have a hard time hiding them.
I like lots of covers.
Yeah. Now, you said Phil. Is your husband Phil Casbary, the gambler?
Yes, he and Max Bruno are in business together.
Yeah, I know. The Rooftop Club. An iron claw with a cover charge.
This morning, Phil said he was going away on a business trip, but I don't believe him. I'm afraid he's going to try killing me again. I want you to come around about 8 and protect me. Here's $100. That should cover it.
Thanks. We might be up late. Maybe I should bring a good book.
Oh, you'll strain your eyes. I like dark rooms.
She got up then and walked slowly across the room like a big cat that had just finished eating its keeper. She stopped at the door and smiled a promise. I thought how Samson must have looked with a crew cut. Around 1, I stopped in at the corner of 51st and Broadway for a bite of lunch. I killed part of the afternoon at the newspaper morgue, looking up the past files of one Phil Casbary. No convictions, but a bundle of arrests. The partnership with Max Bruno had earned some big type from time to time, and it seemed that Mr. Casbary's partner, Max, was quite a favorite with the local authorities. They'd nailed him twice. The first time, Uncle Sam sent him away for missing too many March 15th. The second was when I remembered. A rookie cop caught him with a gun. The parole board said shame and sent him up for the rest of the stretch. I went back to the apartment, dressed, and by 8 o'clock I was ringing Mrs. Casbary's doorbell. The skin of my back crawled up and sat on my head. Whoever was dying was doing it the hard way. The door was locked, so I gave it the benefit of one of my shoulders. It was one of those heavy panel jobs with a will of its own, but finally the hinges got tired and gave up. I stumbled into the living room and came up with my .38. The screams had stopped, and I knew the only reason she had given up yelling was because she'd given up living. She was sprawled on the bed, but she didn't look anything like she had that afternoon. The killer had made sure of that. He'd used a knife. And now she just didn't look like anything. I took a quick look around, found no one, so headed for the phone on the nightstand to call homicide. He must have been standing behind the door. When I turned, he gave it to me. Oh! He used something heavy enough to split a block of cement. It caught me across the nose, and I went down like an express elevator. While I was thinking the floor looked silly trying to be a funnel, he nailed me again. Oh, and this time he pushed back the ceiling and let the night in. It's easy to relax after a good beating. You just bleed a little and grow weak. When someone tries to shake you out of it, it's like trying to sober a drunk that got mauled on cleaning fluid.
Come on, Rick. Let's go. Snap out of it.
Oh.
Come on, kid. You're a mess.
Oh, I'm stuck in the confetti. Oh, yeah. We have a party or something?
Yeah, it looks that way. Wake up, you're still running around with the squirrels.
Oh, my. Take a look at that bed, Walt. If I appear untidy, it makes up for things.
We cleaned it off. Now try and sit up. The ambulance will be here in a minute.
Oh, get me a bat, will you? If I can find the guy who crowned me, I'll give you another customer.
We got him outside, but I can't say I blame him.
And who you got?
Casbary. He says you knocked off his wife.
What?
He called us. Said he came home, found the body, and found you tiptoeing through the corpses.
Yeah? Well, maybe he told you his wife came to see me today and gave out $100 to protect her from him.
No, as a matter of fact, he didn't.
Well, then don't stand there on your swollen bunion, Walt. He's got me in line for a murder rap, and I don't like it.
Don't blame you. Otis, bring in Mr. Casbary.
Yeah, Lieutenant. Get in there, Casbary.
Okay, Sergeant. Okay, take it easy.
Here he is, Lieutenant.
Casbary, Diamond here says he'll trade you a seat in the electric chair for his pushed-in face. I don't get it.
Well, stick around, Phil. They'll catch up with you.
Hold it a minute, Rick.
I've had my face turned into an ad for taffy machines. I've got a right to gloat.
Look, why the chit-chat, Lieutenant? You got your killer. That's what Diamond thinks. He says you fit the job. He's a dirty liar. Says your wife retained him to protect her from you. For why?
She found out you were robbing your partner. You made one try for her, but you missed.
You graduated, Diamond. Now you're a filthy liar. All right, Rick, lay off.
Okay, but I'd like to play some more.
I want some answers.
So why don't you ask his partner? You know him, Max Bruno.
All right. Let's all go see Max Bruno.
A prowl car on Park Avenue is as conspicuous as an outside shower at a girls' camp. A crowd of people watch Sergeant Otis herd us into the back seat. Even if you aren't guilty, you feel like you've got the Chrysler building tucked away under your coat. I waved goodbye to a good-looking blonde with a poodle, and we took off for Bruno's office. It was an old building on 6th Avenue, and a gunnet named Tony Garcia with a big bulge under his arm met us at the door.
What is this, a convention?
Hello, Tony. Tell Bruno I want to see him.
The whole party or just you, Lieutenant?
I'm enough.
Sure. What's the matter, Casbary? You look sick. You get tagged for speeding?
You can tell Max it looks like he built the frame just the right size.
I don't think you know what you're talking about.
Oh, stop playing Alice in Wonderland. We want to see Bruno.
I'll find out if he's in.
We know how to turn a doorknob. Look out.
Okay.
Oh, what is this?
They wouldn't wait for an introduction.
Hello, Max.
What do you want, Levinson?
Couple of questions?
You in some kind of trouble, Casbary?
What do you think?
Well, what are you getting rough with me for?
Oh, you dirty double...
Shut up.
Well, what's eating you, Diamond?
Well, that's a good one.
Now, look.
You look, Max. You keep your mouth shut, Casbary.
Not when I'm being framed. I'm going to yell my head off. Framed?
Don't know nothing about it, huh, Max?
I don't know what you're talking about. What is this?
You framed me with that killing.
Killing?
Don't come on with that bitch. You know what I'm talking about. Take Casbary in the hall, Otis.
Yes, sir. Come on, Casbary.
I'll get you for this, Max. So help me. Come on, you.
Will somebody tell me what's going on here?
Liar. I swear to you, if it's the last thing I do, I'll get...
What's happened to him?
Max, you don't know?
How am I supposed to know? Guess?
Somebody just killed his wife.
Tony.
Yeah, boss.
Wait in the hall.
Yeah, boss.
Casbary knocked off his wife, huh?
Well, he didn't say it was Casbary.
Look, Casbary's my partner. At least he was.
You split?
Yeah, a couple of days ago.
Why?
I've been checking for a couple of weeks. Casbary's been holding out on the take.
How'd you find out?
His wife called me and told me.
Oh, really? Wonder why a wife would incriminate her husband like that.
Yeah, she was scared stiff. She found out what he was doing, and he told her he'd kill her. So she didn't know what to do. She called me.
You knew her pretty well, huh?
Not too well. She figured I could give her protection. I told her to see you, Diamond.
Well, now, that was very nice of you, but what did you do about Casbary when you found out he was robbing you?
Told him to get out, have the money back by tomorrow morning.
You tell him his wife tipped you about him?
Are you crazy? Of course not. Said I've been checking on him for a long time, that the books didn't tally.
And what did he say?
He said he didn't do it. What you expect him to say?
Well, are your books short?
200,000 worth.
Okay, Max. We'll be talking to you.
Wife's dead, huh?
About as dead as she can get.
See you around.
Yeah.
Okay, so he told you how I've been robbing the till.
Yeah, he did.
Well, let's go.
What's the matter, Casbary? You give it up?
I'm framed. That's it. Let's go.
Oh, by the way, what did you do with the murder weapon?
Don't be surprised if you wake up some morning and find it sticking in your back.
Get him out of here, Otis.
Come on, you. Come on.
Well, Levinson did it again. Suspect in custody. What do you do for an encore?
Sleep? You want me to drop you off in emergency? You could use a new face.
No, I'll grab a cab and go to the apartment and clean up. Got to see Helen later.
Okay, but stay off the streets. Somebody's liable to think you're dead and bury you.
Oh, that's a good one.
Night.
Good night. Hey, cabby.
Yeah? Where to, Mac? Holy yike.
What's the matter?
Oh, don't scare me like that. I got a nervous stomach. Why, they could sell your face for 60 cents a pound.
Okay, so good housekeeping shuns me. 553 East 51st and step on it. Well, what are you rolling the window down for?
I want to see if it's still bleeding out. $0.35.
There you are.
Thanks.
Let's take a ride instead.
Huh?
Don't move.
Hey, what's going on?
I told you we're going to take a ride.
The gun in my back I don't recognize, but you should have worn your other head, Tony.
Move.
Okay. What's the matter? Doesn't Max give you enough to eat?
That's because I don't think you're funny.
All right. You're Tony Garcia and you make people bleed.
Right, boy. Hold it. Now get in the car.
You're bending the suit.
Get in. You drive.
Okay, but I'm a better pedestrian. Where to?
Washington Bridge.
I don't swim any better than I drive.
You won't have to. You're out for high dive and get going. Come on, hurry it up.
I thought we were going to a funeral.
That's a good one.
What's it all about, Tony?
Don't get nosy. Enjoy the ride. It's a new car.
We rode like that. Tony sitting half-turned with a big .45 in his fist, pointing right at my stomach. I drove south across town, trying to figure it out. Max Bruno's killer getting ready for a job. Why? Why me? What did I know that could get Max Bruno in trouble?
Turn here.
I turned, and the Washington Bridge wasn't far away. I could see it, stretched out across the river like a long coffin lined with bright candles. I eased down on the accelerator, and by the time we reached the bridge, I was doing a good 60.
Slow down.
We were near the toll gate. I took my foot off the accelerator and then jammed down on the brakes as hard as I could.
Before we continue with Richard Diamond, private detective, here are a few words about smoking enjoyment.
You know, smoking is a day-in, day-out pleasure. We like each cigarette to taste as good as the one before. And we like the cigarette we smoke to be mild, to get along with our throats for a good long time. So it's good sense to test a cigarette over a period of time, not just a puff of this cigarette or a sniff of that.
Yes, make the sensible cigarette test, the thorough test. Smoke only Camels for 30 days as you normally smoke, and you'll see how rich and flavorful Camels are, pack after pack. You'll see how mild Camels are, week after week.
In a coast-to-coast test of hundreds of people who smoked only Camels for 30 days, noted throat specialists reported not one single case of throat irritation due to smoking Camels. That's real proof of cigarette mildness.
Make your own Camel 30-day test, the sensible test, and see for yourself why more people smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
How mild,
how mild, how mild, how mild can a cigarette be?
Make the Camel 30-day test, and you'll see.
Smoke Camels and see.
And now, back to Richard Diamond, Private Detective, starring Dick Powell.
We had hit the bridge railing and stopped cold. The steering wheel had caught me in the stomach. I opened my mouth to make my lungs work. It was like sucking air through a bent straw. I didn't know how long I sat there before I finally made it, but a slow, dripping sound made me remember Tony and look over. He was halfway through the windshield, and the dripping wasn't a broken radiator. His life was running out all over the hood. I got out of the car before the guards got to it. I had to have time to figure the whole thing out, and I didn't want to hang around for a lot of long explanations. I walked until I lost the crowd that was collecting. I took in long breaths of fresh air until my head cleared, then spotted an empty cab heading back to town, flagged it, gave the cabbie the address of the Rooftop Club. I needed answers, and the best person to give them to me was Max Bruno.
Late edition, get your late edition here. Read all about it. Read all about the Casbary murder. Woman found dead in her apartment. Husband held for murder.
Hey, boy, paper.
Yes, sir. Gee, what happened to your face?
I shaved with a rake.
Yeah? Gee, that's pretty funny.
Holy.
What's the matter?
This picture.
That's the dame was knocked off tonight. Casbary dame.
Oh, so that's it.
Huh?
Here's a buck, thanks.
Wow. Take my advice, mister. See your analyst. You'll get rid of them bells.
Homicide, Lieutenant Levinson.
Walt, did you get to 415 at the George Washington Bridge?
Yeah, about 10 minutes ago. Tony Garcia ran into the bridge railing. Some other guy with him. How'd you hear about it, Rick?
Well, I was the other guy.
What?
Yeah, Tony was going to show me the bottom of the river.
Are you nuts?
Not at all, no. And have you seen the evening papers?
No.
Well, there's a picture of Mrs. Casbary on the front page.
So what?
Well, so this. The girl in the picture isn't the same girl who came into my office this afternoon.
Who was she?
I don't know.
Now, wait a minute.
Walt,
Rick.
well, no. Don't you get it? That's why Tony was supposed to gun me tonight.
No, I don't get it.
Oh, Walt, somebody wanted to frame Phil Casbary. They sent a girl to my office posing as Mrs. Casbary. So I'd swear she suspected that Phil was going to kill her. When I found the wife dead, she was cut up so bad I couldn't tell the difference.
Well, then why kill you?
To prevent what's just happened. Get me out of the way before I saw the evening papers.
Then Max Bruno was lying about Casbary taking the money.
Sure. There had to be a motive, so he cooked up the story about Mrs. Casbary calling him and telling him about Phil and the money.
Then Bruno's our man.
Oh, Walt, you're such a good boy. I knew you'd get it.
Check your hat, sir?
Maybe I'd better throw it in the door first. Give me a pack of Camels.
Yes, sir.
Who's running the place for Mr. Bruno?
Mr. Casbary, but he isn't in yet.
Well, it depends on what you're talking about. How's the floor show?
It's all right if you got an imagination.
You know, you better keep moving. You'll catch cold in that getup.
Oh, well, don't let it fool you. The bustle's really a hot water bottle.
I went in and sat at the bar. The dance floor was in the other room, but you could see it through the long glass windows. I was sitting there trying to figure my next move when the floor show started. The usual line of cuties came out. The hat check girl was wrong. You didn't need an imagination. They were wearing just enough to make a bathing suit look like a sleeping bag. They tripped over each other getting off, and the lights went dim, and a white spot circled the piano. She came out in a green satin evening gown. I've seen grapes with looser skins.
I didn't know what time it was.
She knew what time it was. She was pretty good, too. But she was better this afternoon in my office when she told me she was Mrs. Casbary. I got up and went back to the hat check girl with a warm bustle.
Maybe you need a shot. Even the old ones stick around for the last show.
Honey, where can I find that singer's dressing room?
I thought you looked healthy. Mr. Bruno wouldn't like it.
Well, maybe we don't let Mr. Bruno in on it.
Oh, $10. You'll have to shove bamboo under my nails before I talk.
She told me how to find the singer's dressing room. I thanked her and gave her a pat on the... You know, it was a hot water bottle. I walked by the bar again and listened while she poured it on. I've heard singers with better voices, but this one had the difference. She went into the last few bars, and I headed for her dressing room. I wanted to get there before she did. And unless that green satin gown was a breakaway, she didn't figure for an encore. I got in, sat down to wait. It was a quick minute before she showed up. Oh, shut up, you're flat.
Oh, you get out of here. Go on, get out.
Now, relax, baby. I got something to say. You want to listen or do you want to get shoved around?
You just try it. I'll get some of Max's boys to let the air out of your muscles.
Open your mouth and you'll be tripping on your teeth. Get away from that door and sit down.
Not until you get your eyes full of fingernails.
You little... Now, get this. I don't like marking up dames' complexions, but you're making it easy. Who sent you up to my office? Was it Max?
Why don't you ask him? He's good at answers.
Well, so was his boy, Tony. He got dead trying to figure it out. Maybe you'd like to guess.
Wait a minute, Diamond. One scream from me, and everybody in the joint will be in here on your back.
Honey, if you open your mouth, I'll shove your foot in it.
If I tell you, do I get squared with the law?
You're an accessory before the fact. I can only give you a head start.
Just give me long enough to find a healthy climate.
Now, you're killing time. Come on. I want to know who built you up to fit Mrs. Casbary. Was it Max Bruno?
All right. It was Max. Phil found out he was holding out in the gambling take.
So he dissolves the partnership by killing Mrs. Casbary, making Phil the patsy.
Neat, huh?
Yeah, like a sack full of brains. Go on, answer it.
Who is it?
Open up, baby. It's me.
Max, look out. Diamond's in here.
Sorry, baby, but twice makes you a punching bag. I didn't want to hit her, but it was the only way to keep her tongue in. She dropped like a wet wash in an earthquake, and I jumped to the door. Max was halfway down the hall. He had a gun in his hand, and he used it. The slug threw up the wall by my ear, and before I could try my luck, he was around the corner. I thought about the hole his Luger had made, and I wondered why I was still chasing him. I turned the corner and found myself in the bandstand. Max turned fast and tried again. I was across the crowded dance floor, and the panic busted loose.
What's going on here?
I shoved aside a drunk who thought it was the 4th of July and went to the bar like I needed the exercise.
That man's got a gun!
Max was nearly to the front door when he turned around for another shot at me. He didn't see the little hat check girl standing behind me with her arms full of coats. He backed right into her, and they both went down together. Max stumbled up, tangled, and on a sorted wardrobe. He squeezed first, but he was wearing too many coats. Then he missed again. I didn't miss. Max doubled up like a tired ice bag and got himself a face full of carpet. He was pretty dead. The hat check girl looked at me for a minute, then leaned over to Max. She said something that endeared her to me forever.
Check your gun, Mr. Bruno.
Dick Powell will return in just a minute. What cigarette do you smoke, Doctor? That question was asked of doctors in every branch of medicine, doctors in all parts of the country. In repeated surveys, the brand named most is Camel.
Yes, according to these surveys, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
Camel's costly tobaccos are properly aged and expertly blended for your smoking enjoyment. Make the sensible cigarette test, the 30-day Camel test. and see how enjoyable a cigarette can be. See for yourself why people say, once a Camel smoker, always a Camel smoker.
How mild, how mild, how mild, how mild, how mild can a cigarette be? Make the Camel 30-day test, and you'll see. Smoke Camels and see.
Here's Dick Powell with a special message.
Thank you. You know, it's a pleasure for me to make this weekly announcement, ladies and gentlemen, because each week the makers of Camels send gift cigarettes to a most deserving group of people, servicemen and veterans who are hospitalized. This week's Camels go to Veterans Hospitals, Fargo, North Dakota, and Alexandria, Louisiana. U.S. Air Force Hospital, Randolph Air Force Base, Texas. U.S. Naval Hospital, San Diego, California. Now, until next week, enjoy Camels. I always do.
How mild, how mild, how mild, how mild, how mild can a cigarette be? Make the Camel 30-day test, and you'll see. Smoke Camels and see.
Tonight's adventure of Richard Diamond, starring Dick Powell, was written by Blake Edwards with music by Frank Worth. Our director is Helen Mack. Featured in tonight's cast were Virginia Gregg, Arthur Q. Bryan, and Wilms Herbert.
Men, whether you buy the handy pocket tin or the big 1-pound tin of Prince Albert, you're in for real smoking joy. PA's Choice Tobacco has a rich taste and delightful natural aroma. It's specially treated to ensure against tongue bite, and it's crimp cut for smooth, even, cool smoking. Get Prince Albert, the National Joy Smoke, America's largest selling smoking tobacco.
Listen next week for another exciting transcribed adventure of Richard Diamond, starring Dick Powell. This is Your FBI. The official broadcast from the files of the FBI follows immediately. Stay tuned. This program came to you from Hollywood. This is the American Broadcasting Company.
This, I believe, almost as much of an institution in American life as the Brooklyn Dodgers, whose ups and downs he faithfully reports, Walter Lanier Barber is a thoughtful Southerner, more familiarly known to millions of sports fans as Red. Here is Red Barber's play-by-play account of his beliefs.
The work given me to do in the past 20-odd years has been in the world of muscles. The athlete must possess speed of foot, sharpness of vision, strength of limb, and he must have a nervous system that coordinates his physical faculties. Yet as the years have rolled their tense athletic struggles before my microphones, I have become increasingly aware that the athlete is a man of muscles and reflexes, yes, but that he is also something else. And this something else is the dominant factor in the successful equation. It is the quality that makes any human great, or else brings him down to his knees in defeat. It is the quality that separates man from the other forms of life on this earth. It is the fact that man is a spiritual being. It is my observation that the great athlete is always a person of tremendous spirit. It is the spiritual part of him that controls his living, training, and working routines. How does an athlete think? What does he believe? Does he have the willpower to practice and practice until he masters the skills of his profession? Does he have the disposition to fit into the team and to work for the team's success? Does he play his best every inning of every game and hang on and keep swinging and running and sliding with all his might right down to the last out, no matter what the score? Does he have personal mastery of himself so that he remains in fit condition? Can he withstand prosperity, or does it go to his head? When I first came up to the major leagues in Cincinnati, I heard an old baseball scout, Bobby Wallace, talking about how he evaluated a ball player that he was interested in purchasing. In this case, he was talking about a pitcher. I've never forgotten 2 points that he made. He said it was easy, of course, to see what and how good was the pitcher's stuff on the mound, but that he would have to know the man's living habits off the field before he'd recommend his purchase. And second, he would not pass favorably on the pitcher until he saw him pitch when he was getting beat. In other words, the scout would need to examine the pitcher when he was losing, and then, if he kept on bearing down, that was his man. Dr. Jock Sutherland, when he was head football coach at the University of Pittsburgh, told me that, of course, he wanted physically strong football players, but that first he had to know how those players thought. Sutherland said that if a boy didn't think right, he could do little with him or for him. Ty Cobb's flaming spirit set his body on fire and kept him amazingly competitive year after year, record after record. Ben Hogan, in his recent golfing comeback after having his body shattered, is a tribute to his spiritual worth in that he forced himself to fight back. I firmly believe, then, that it is the spiritual that makes the important difference, even in the world of brawn. It is how a man thinks that matters. I believe each of us must realize that he is driven and directed by his spiritual self, and that each of us must place his reliance on things spiritual. I have found that the Christian religion is the best source of spiritual strength for me, as I puzzle and grapple in my own way with the mysteries of where we came from, who are we, what are we doing on this earth, and where do we go when this particular race is run.
They're the creed of Red Barber, CBS sports director, active citizen, and a man who has learned a battery of valuable truths from the sandlots and stadia of this country.
Mr. District Attorney, starring David Bryan. Mr. District Attorney, champion of the people, defender of truth, guardian of our fundamental rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
And it shall be my duty as district attorney not only to prosecute to the limit of the law all persons accused of crimes perpetrated within this county, but to defend with equal vigor the rights and privileges of all its citizens. This is David Bryan. In a moment, we'll bring you another case from the files of Mr. District Attorney. But first, a word from our sponsor.
And now, here is our star, David Bryan, as Paul Garrett, Mr. District Attorney.
A district attorney and a watchmaker have one thing in common. They both know the value of accurate time. The ability to fix the exact time a crime has been committed can lead to the conviction of a guilty man or the saving of an innocent one. The time element became very important in this case. It started late on a Saturday night in a roadside diner near a railroad crossing on the south side of town.
Hi, Charlie.
Oh, it's you.
That's a happy greeting for your favorite brother-in-law.
Stop clowning, Jack. You're not my favorite anything, and you know it.
How's the fight going?
Rough. Could go either way. I got pins in front by one round.
What round is this?
7th. Dinah sends you down for something?
No, it's something I want to see about, Charlie. Mind if I turn this down a little?
What is this, Jack? Another touch? Because if it is, you're wasting your time.
It's Saturday night. I got a date. I need $5.
Try working. That might be a way to get it. Why don't you ask your sister?
Ah, don't kid me, Charlie. You know why. She wouldn't give it to me. You told her not to.
I told her to use her own judgment, Jack.
Turning my own sister against me.
She happens to be my wife. And I'd like to see her get herself a decent dress instead of shelling out 5s and 10s to you. No.
All right, then. Maybe I'll just help myself from the register.
I wouldn't touch that if I were you, Jack.
You just stay on that stool and count your hamburger patties, brother-in-law.
Jack! Don't get any crazier than you are. Put that gun back under the counter. Put it back and get out of here or I'll call the cops.
Do I get the door, don't I?
No.
Too bad.
Why, you...
That's the way you wanted it, cheapskate.
Good morning, Miss Miller. Harrington.
Well, hello, Chief. Have a nice weekend?
Very nice, until I saw the Monday morning newspapers on my desk. Why didn't you send me a wire when this Dinah murder was discovered?
I just thought you needed the rest, that's all. And yesterday was Sunday, and...
I don't like to give a murder a 24-hour start, Miss Miller.
I'm sorry, Mr. Garrett. It won't happen again.
Besides, Chief, he didn't get a 24-hour start. He didn't even get 24 minutes. Prowl car saw him running out of the diner and nailed him on the spot.
That's why I didn't feel you had to be bothered right away, Mr. Garrett.
I'm sorry if I spoke sharply, Miss Miller.
Rick and Clerk have been getting us reports on the suspect. We don't have much here, just these 2 cards. But here's a batch of stuff from the other states.
Walter Bailey, age 40, no visible means. Most of these are arrests for vagrancy.
Yeah. Bailey's a hobo. Rode into town on a 1045 freight from the west Saturday night.
Arrested for robbery and murder a half hour later. Where is he now?
Interrogation room. Had him brought over, Chief. I thought you might want to talk to him.
I do. When they get a complete make on him, Miss Miller, take it up to my office, will you?
Yes, sir.
Oh, cheer up. I did need the rest. Fishing yesterday was a lot of fun. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Bailey have the murder weapon on him when the prowl team caught him?
No, he didn't, Chief. He left it on the floor of the diner when he ran out. It wasn't his gun to begin with.
Huh?
It belonged to the diner. The owner said his night man kept it under the counter.
It was the night man who was killed, wasn't it?
Yeah. Charlie Porter. Bailey's in here.
We can handle this, Kerrigan. Wait outside until it's time to take him back. Walter Bailey?
That's right.
My name's Paul Garrett. I'm the district attorney.
Cheers.
Don't get fresh, Buster.
What'd you expect, singing and dancing? What are you trying to hang on me? What reason would I have for killing a guy I never saw before in my whole life?
Robbery seems to be the reason, Bailey. The cash register in the diner had been emptied.
Not by me. I didn't have a nickel on me when the cops caught me.
No. They chased you halfway across the railroad yard before they did catch you. You had plenty of time to throw the money away.
Got the whole thing in a nice big frame, ain't you?
Bailey, it isn't the money so much. The big thing is that you ran. Why?
Want me to draw you a picture? I know my story doesn't sound good, but it's true. I rode a hotshot freight into the yards at 10:45. 15 minutes later, I walked into a diner, found a guy murdered. I got scared. I ran. That's all there is to it. I'm going to be a pigeon for you, mister. I can't even hire a lawyer.
The court will provide you with counsel without charge, Bailey. It's your constitutional right.
Constitutional right? You mean a bum's got rights? I've been rostered on vagrancy charges in every state from Maine to sunny Cal. You expect me to think I got a chance?
I'll let you answer that question for yourself, Bailey.
Meaning what?
Meaning that you have a certain positive knowledge that I don't have. I don't know whether or not you killed that man in the diner. But you do know. Come on, Harrington.
Take him back, Kerrigan. Pretty weak story, wasn't it, Chief?
Except for one point.
What?
If Bailey did kill Charlie Porter, why didn't he keep the gun when he ran? If he'd already killed one man, he could have gotten into a gunfight with the police, too. He had nothing to lose by more killing, and he might have gotten away.
Yeah. You punched the down button, Chief.
Yeah, I know.
Aren't you going back up to the office?
No, down to the garage. We're going to take a ride out and have a look at that diner. Basement, please. Anything been touched inside?
Nope. Except for removing the body. Here, let me open the padlock.
What's that white circle on the floor?
That's where we found the gun. The marks at the end of the counter show where Porter's feet were sticking out when the body was found.
The rest of his body behind the counter.
The lab figures Charlie Porter was sitting on that stool. Slid off when the slugs hit him. There were a couple of broken dishes there. Must have grabbed at the bottom part of the counter when he fell.
How about ballistics?
Shots were fired at a distance of about 8 feet by the register there. The owner says the gun was kept right here, under the counter behind the radio.
Behind the radio? Yeah, there's no light under the counter.
Not when the set's on. Here, let me show you. No backplate on the set. Tube's lighted up under there.
I see. Was the radio playing when the police found the body?
Yeah. What are you thinking, Chief?
That stool. Why would Porter be sitting here without moving while somebody came around behind the counter to the cash register? Unless it happened to be somebody he knew.
Bailey might have been behind the counter working out a meal.
No, that's probably it. What's this?
What?
Pencil and scrap of writing paper on the counter.
No, that was there. Something Porter was writing, I guess.
2 rows of small squares numbered 1 to 10 at the top. The letter C in front of one row and the letter P in the other. Numbers in all the squares up to 6.
He must have been figuring something out.
Yes, but what? Certainly not a bill.
Who knows? Some kind of puzzle, maybe.
Well, whatever it was, he must have been working at it when he was killed. Let's...
Hey! What are you people doing in here?
District Attorney's office, and don't come in.
Oh, I'm sorry. I knew the joint was closed, and I saw a car outside, and you guys nosing around in here.
Yeah, you got kind of a long nose yourself. Wait out there. Seen enough, Chief?
Yes.
All right, now...
Railroad crossing. I see you guys. I figure you might be breaking in.
Is that your crossing right over there, about 150 feet?
Breaking in?
Is that your crossing right over there, about 150 feet?
Yeah, a little shack.
Are you on duty Saturday night?
Sure, I work a 12-hour shift, noon to midnight.
Doing what?
Opening and closing the crossing gate whenever a train comes.
You ever eat here, in the diner?
Nah, just coffee. Come over every night to get hot coffee, and my timer said so.
You do it Saturday night?
Yeah.
What time?
10:30, same as always.
How long do you stay?
Just long enough to get the timers filled. Had to get back to the crossing to lower the gate for that freight that pulls into the yards at 10:45. She passes the shack at 10:43. Only one that comes in on Saturday night.
That's the train Bailey rode in on, Chief.
I know. Did you hear a shot Saturday night between the time you left here to go back to your shack and, say, 11 o'clock?
Nah.
You're certain of that? With only one train going through, it must have been a quiet night.
It was, but I didn't hear anything, except when the cops started to chase that guy, that Hobo.
What caliber was the murder weapon, Harrington?
.45.
Well, that makes a lot of noise. You should have heard the report. Unless it was covered by another noise.
Like what?
A freight train going through at that crossing.
But Bailey was on that train. If your figuring is right, he couldn't have killed Porter.
You've got to find out exactly what time Porter was killed.
Coroner couldn't measure it that close.
Yeah, I know.
I'd better be getting back to the crossing. Okay if I go?
Yes. Oh, just a minute.
Yeah?
Those gloves you're wearing, you wear them all the time?
Everybody around the railroad wears gloves, mister, even off duty.
Well, that's all. Thank you.
Why'd you ask him that for, Chief?
Because up until now, Bailey's story was hard to believe when only his prints and Porter's were on the gun.
What makes it easier to believe now?
You heard what the gentleman said, Harrington. All railroad men wear gloves. This is David Bryan. Before we continue with Mr. District Attorney in the case of the hungry hobo, here's an important message I'd like you to hear.
And now back to David Bryan, starring as Paul Garrett, Mr. District Attorney.
The night counterman at a diner had been murdered, and all the available evidence pointed to a hobo. To convict or acquit him hinged upon establishing the exact time of death. For 2 days, Harrington and I tried to fight the clock with no results. Then I went to call on the dead man's widow.
Yeah?
Is this the porter's apartment?
Yeah. If you want to call this dump an apartment, this is it.
Well, I'd like to see Mrs. Porter.
She ain't back from the funeral yet. Hey, you must be the lawyer I called. Come in.
I'm afraid there must be some mistake.
No, it's no mistake. I left the name when I called. You are a lawyer, ain't you?
Yes, I'm a lawyer.
Ah, good. Sit down. There's a comfortable chair over there.
When do you expect Mrs. Porter back?
I don't know, soon. She's all busted up. You know, about her husband.
Oh, that's not surprising.
Yeah, with a man, it's different. You know, you bawl once and you're over it.
Are you a friend of the family or a relative?
I'm Jack Hausman. Nina Porter's my sister. Charlie was my brother-in-law. Didn't your secretary tell you about my call?
Not very much, I'm afraid.
Oh, well, you're here now. That's what counts. Let's get on to business. Things are going to be pretty tough on my sister. You know what I mean? She ain't going to like it when she finds out I sent for you, but that's all for her own good. There must be some kind of a suit you can file against the guy that owns the diner or somebody. Charlie got killed working there, didn't he? It ought to be worth something.
You want to sue somebody for your brother-in-law's murder?
Why not? Look, I know the tramp killed him ain't got beans, but a Greek guy owns the diner. He's loaded. Why shouldn't he pay off?
Do you realize your sister's husband has been murdered? Is money all you can think about?
He was my brother-in-law, wasn't he? We got a right to something.
Well, what's more important to you? Profiting by his death or finding out who killed him?
The cops got the guy that killed him.
I'm not sure of that. And I'm getting less sure every minute.
You ain't the lawyer I sent for.
I don't think any lawyer would come near you with a 10-foot pole.
Hey, what kind of a game are you playing?
You asked me if I was an attorney. I am. I'm the district attorney.
The DA? I was just trying to help my sister. Any law against that?
No.
You're supposed to be prosecuting a killer, not coming around bothering the family and its grief.
What grief? You can't wait to get the...
What's the matter here, Jack?
Mrs. Porter?
Yes?
I'm Paul Garrett, the district attorney.
Yeah, he comes waltzing in here trying to tell me that tramp didn't kill Charlie after all.
That's not true. I don't know whether he did or not. That's what I'm trying to find out.
What do you want to see me about?
You don't have to help him protect some bum.
Jack! What do you want to know, Mr. Garrett?
Did your husband have any friends who stopped at the diner regularly? Men from the railroad?
All the men at the yards were Charlie's friends. A lot of them came to the funeral. They sent a big wreath.
In the diner, do you know if your husband ever let any one of them come behind the counter? Get their own food, maybe. Anything like that?
I don't know. Jack might. Jack used to work in the yards.
Did your brother-in-law permit that?
How should I know? I haven't worked in the yards in 6 months.
Where do you work now?
I've been out of a job. There a law against that, too?
You didn't try to work.
What do you mean I didn't try?
You know what I mean. You left everything to Charlie and me. Live in office, borrowing...
You're my sister.
I was his wife. You're old enough to take care of yourself, Jack. You're a grown man. Get out. Get your things and get out.
Oh, before you go, one question. Where were you when your brother-in-law was killed?
I ought to clip you one for asking me that, but I won't. I'll tell you where I was. I was with my girlfriend from 8 o'clock until midnight. Her name's Helen Campbell, and she lives at 27 Denton Street. Any other questions? Good.
Well, before I go, shall I ask one of the neighbors to come in and stay with you?
No, I'd rather be alone. Tomorrow would have been our second anniversary. Charlie used to take Saturday nights off before we had Jack to take care of. He used to take me to the arena for the fights. He loved them so. I never cared much for him, but I never told him. I wanted to be with him. I wanted to be a good wife to him. I tried to be.
I'm sure you are a wonderful wife, Mrs. Porter.
Please leave me alone.
Of course.
Chief?
Harrington, what are you doing here?
Huh? Waiting for you. I had a squad of 20 men, including the 2 who arrested Bailey, combing the railroad yards for that money from the cash register. If he threw it away, we didn't find it.
I don't think he ever had it.
You learned something up there?
A couple of things. The main one is that Charlie Porter was an ardent fight fan.
How does that help?
I'll tell you later after you get a rundown on somebody for me.
Oh, who?
A woman named Helen Campbell. Check the neighborhood around 27 Denton Street. Get back to the office with a report as soon as you can.
Right.
Lab men just brought in the radio from the diner, Mr. Garrett.
Good. Did you get the dial setting?
Yes, it was set to the station the Daily Bulletin owns.
Well, call the bulletin then. See if they carried a fight broadcast and find out exactly what time it started.
Yes, sir. I'll call from my office.
Oh, sorry, Miss Miller. I didn't see you coming out.
It's all right. Mr. Garrett's been waiting for you.
Come in, Harrington. What about the Campbell woman? Anything?
Nothing pleasant. Broke, out of work. Seems to be a chronic condition. Reputation isn't too good.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me, judging by the company she keeps. She seemed to have any money lately?
Yeah. All of a sudden. She was behind the rent and paid it up Monday morning. Yesterday. Paid off a candy store for newspapers and smoke she's been cuffing. And a couple of hours ago, she paid $5 on account at the Italian grocery store down the block from her apartment when the owner dunned her for part of the bill she'd been running. I wonder where she got it.
I've got a fair idea.
Oh? Where?
From somebody who knew Charlie Porter had a gun under the counter in the diner. His brother-in-law.
His brother-in-law?
That's the information you wanted, Mr. Garrett. Station carried a fight broadcast Saturday night, just the main event between Kid Pigeon and Tiger Corey.
What's that for?
That slip of paper, numbered from 1 to 10, that we found on the counter of the diner.
Yeah? Hey, Porter must have been listening to the fight and scoring it. That's what the P and C stood for. Pins and Corey, 10 rounds.
What time did the fight start?
Went on at 10:15 sharp.
Did it go the full 10 rounds?
Yes, sir.
Porter scored 6 rounds. That's 3 minutes a round with 1 minute rest periods in between. 24 minutes. That brings us up to
10:39 p.m.
He didn't score the 7th, so he was probably killed during it or just after it.
That's 4 minutes more, 10:43, just as the train was passing the crossing into the yards.
With Bailey on it. I knew that was why that crossing guard didn't hear the shot. You find out the crossing guard's name?
Yeah. Tom Wells.
You got a $5 bill on you?
Yeah, sure. Here.
Write the name Tom Wells on the margin.
What's the gimmick?
We're going to try and outsmart Jack Houseman's girl. I'm going to tell her that one of the bills stolen from the diner was marked. That a customer who had been in just before the murder remembered changing a bill he'd written his name on. Some people do that, you know, to see if they ever get the bill back again.
Okay, Chief. Yeah, there it is.
Thanks. Let's go.
Look, I got dishes to do and this joint to clean up. What do you come in asking me crazy questions for? How am I supposed to remember one $5 bill from another?
The Italian grocer up the street claims you gave him this one as part payment on a bill, Miss Campbell.
So then I gave it to him. What's this all about?
I'll tell you what it's all about, miss. That $5 bill was stolen from the diner when Charlie Porter was killed.
How could you know anything like that?
We know because the bill is marked with a name. A customer gave it to Porter just a few minutes before the killing. Spending that bill makes you a candidate for a murder trial.
It isn't my money. I didn't know. Jack Hausman gave it to me. He'll kill me for telling you.
Where is he?
Here. When you rang the bell, he went in there, the bathroom.
He must have heard us.
Locked. Open up, Hausman.
Better break it.
All right. Gone. Out the window.
He wanted me to swear he was with me.
There he is, gone over the fence at the back of the alley.
Stop, Hausman! Give me a boost when we hit the fence.
He may be armed. Pull me up.
Yeah, right.
There, behind that old washing machine.
Back off! Don't come for me!
Give up, Buster.
You had your chance!
You hit him. How bad is it? Through the head. He's dead. Have to call a wagon and take him away.
Yeah. We can go out that way. The gate from the fence. Oh, watch out for those broken bed springs, Chief. Might tear you close.
I see them. What kind of a place is this, anyhow?
Sign on the fence.
His junkyard. Appropriate place for a man like him to end.
Yeah. I still don't know how come he didn't leave fingerprints on Porter's gun.
He used to work on the railroad. I think he knew what he was going to do when he went into the diner. Probably wore gloves.
Oh. There's only one thing that bothers me, Chief.
No?
That bill I wrote the name on.
What about it?
You still got it. Ain't I going to get it back?
Sure, Harrington. Here. This is David Bryan. I hope you enjoyed this case from the files of Mr. District Attorney. I'll be back in just a moment after this message from our sponsor.
Now, here is the star of Mr. District Attorney, David Bryan, with a word about the program you have just heard.
Walter Bailey, the hobo who was almost convicted on circumstantial evidence, was found to be an amnesia victim. He was sent to a hospital, recovered, and reunited with his family, which he hadn't seen in 9 years. He was also restored to a successful business. Jack Hausman's girlfriend, Helen Campbell, is serving a penitentiary sentence as an accessory after the fact. Now, this is David Bryan inviting you to join us when we present our next case based on the facts of crime from the file of Mr. District Attorney.
Mr. District Attorney was originated by Phillips H. Lord.